All right, let's go ahead and reconvene the Pompano Beach CRA meeting on today's date. What is today's date? Well, it's from September 16th, 2025, and today's the 18th, 2025. Reconvening the Pompano Beach CRA City Commission, or CRA meeting, sorry. All right, last we were here, we were discussing items on the budget, and we have, we have an opportunity to continue discussions and reopen items 3 and 4. That's what the discussion was all about. So, where should we start?
Mayor?
Ms. McKenna.
If we may, I would like to start because I want to, since it's been, 48 hours since we were together, I want to go back over the law so that our record is very clear.
Ms. McKenna, can you do the motions that we, as first, before that we discussed? Would you mind that, or mind?
Sorry, what was that, Commissioner Fessick?
So
There are no pending motions.
right, could you? But we had a conversation when we recessed, and I'm sorry for that. But we had a conversation when we recessed.
I don't know who we is, first. But
When we recessed, we had.
I didn't have any conversation after we recessed.
I had a conversation with Ms. McKenna and Kervin after we recessed.
Okay, all right.
To be clear, and it was related to some scheduling because I was under the impression that we had the ability, if something came up, to be able to handle things remotely, because we do with the city and we don't with the CRA, which I found out later. So this meeting was so important, obviously, that I made some last-minute changes to some personal plans that cost me well over several $100s, because I found out yesterday morning that had I not been able to change those plans, we would have had to have a motion to allow, or to either, and it would have been at the mercy of everybody, but not with me involved, to allow somebody to participate remotely or not. Now, since we have it with the city, that's fine, but Ms. McKenna had what she said to me was very legally and the way it's supposed to be told, I guess, and Kervin. So we have this ability within the city in any of our city commission meetings, but we've never adopted it for the CRA. And the reason why it's important is because, God forbid, something happens to any of us, or scheduling conflicts or whatever, and something like this happens where we have an impasse or we have something odd. I don't want anybody else to be feeling like they have to make last-minute changes to their plans or have charges or feel like they're going to let down their residents. So
Appreciate that.
that's kind of where I'm going with it.
Okay, very good. Ms. McKenna?
Thank you, Mayor. So I want to make sure our record is clear. The CRA is a dependent special district, and it's governed by both Chapter 163 in the Florida statutes and Chapter 189. 189.0163 says the governing body of each special district shall adopt a budget each fiscal year. So you have an obligation under the law to adopt a budget today. The other important provision is 163.387.7, which provides that when you have appropriated funds to a project in your CRA plan, those funds stay with the project. And the statute specifically says the funds appropriated for such project may not be changed unless the project is amended, redesigned, or delayed, in which case the funds must be appropriated pursuant to the next annual budget adopted by the Board of Commissioners of the Community Redevelopment Agency. So this budget that is in front of you is a lawful budget. It has been prepared pursuant to that provision of the statute that says if you have appropriated funds previously for a project, an approved project that is in your plan, then those funds continue. So I want to make clear that if you vote for this budget, you are following the law. If you vote against this budget, you are ignoring the law. And I want to be very clear that we are obligated today to adopt a budget. That is what your legal duty is. I've asked Ms. Vasquez to present to you the impact of failing to adopt the budget today. And she's going to go through what that impact will be. I've also asked Mr. Waters to review with you what the impact will be to the city budget if you fail to adopt a budget today.
Very good, thank you. Ms. Vasquez.
Yes, good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, board members. We did send out a memo last night regarding the financial impacts if the CRA budget fails to pass. I've pulled up on the screen a copy of that memo, and I'll go through each line item on this memo. First is the CRA. We have two outstanding bonds in each district, one being in the east, the 2013 A and B bond series, and then in the northwest, the FY 2022 bond. If we default on those bonds, it could lead into CRA could legally take over the city could not take over these debts. Therefore, that would put us in default, and we would have to notify the bondholders immediately. They could do a couple of things. They could call in the bonds immediately and make us pay those in full. And the resolution is the contract with the bondholders of those relevant bonds. That's one. Number two, the default on the bonds has adverse implications for both the city and the CRA because the rating agencies carefully evaluate the government entity's performance relating to its payments obligations. The third is the reimbursement the CRA pays to the city in the amount of $1.6 million will not be paid over to cover payroll or fringes and administrative overhead allocation for the city support services. Because we have 3 city employees dedicated to the Northwest, these are union workers, and therefore it could have an adverse collective bargaining impact. The CRA would default on financial commitments in its private development partners of Old Town Square for the Northwest and to the amount of $300,000 and to the Mela at $1 million in the East. This could place the developers and their projects in default of their loans with their lenders, because that was part of that. They're getting their loans to do this, is that we would do that reimbursement. The CRA would be in default on the commitment to the Sonata project of $300,000. We had a 5-year commitment to them. This would be the last in the FY 2026 budget for $300,000. The CRA would be unable to move forward with the contract with Alexander and Johnson Project Management and Development. That was the one that was approved on Tuesday in the amount of $880,000. We would not be able to move forward with those improvements to Northwest 6th Avenue. The CRA would be unable to pay the monthly pre-development cost to Roca Point in the amount of $70,833, causing a breach of the MDA and substantial financial liability to the CRA, the city, and the city residents. Additionally, any payments that we owe for pre-development costs, such to Keith and Associates, would not be able to be paid as well. The CRA is obligated to fund the master infrastructure project for which the bond debt service has been appropriated for the past 2 years and is required by law to continue to be appropriated. The CRA has invested approximately $16 million on land acquisition pursuant to the MDA and continues to be contractually obligated to complete that land acquisition as required by the contract. All CRA-owned properties that's vacant and occupied, we would not be able to pay the insurance premium that's due after the 1st of October. This includes the property, the structures, etc., and it includes several of our tenants that we currently have both in the Northwest and the East. Those obligations would not be able to be met, and the liability of having that insurance would be exacerbated through the hurricane season. The CRA would default on approximately 31 contracts for services such as lot cleaning, illegal dumping, pest control, pressure cleaning, etc., and would eliminate the ability to respond to residents' complaints for such matters, including project-related contracts, including the MDA, which is discussed separately. The land acquisition to replace the District 4 substation would be eliminated and the project would not move forward. The FPI security contract would terminate as of October 1, and therefore those services would no longer be provided. The CRA would default on the Old Town parking lot lease at 201 Northeast First Avenue, which provides additional public parking for Old Town businesses and city events. The CRA would default on the leases for Old Town's backyard and placing those tenant subleases such as South Bar and Kitchen in default as well. There would be no facade or interior improvement funding. That would cease. All incentive programs would not be funded. The city's 0.5% millage rate reduction would shift the cost for the infrastructure improvements for Northwest First Street for the 6 affordable Habitat homes on Northwest First Street would not be funded, reneging on a promise to Habitat for Humanity. McNabb House, the city has already invested $2.6 million on the project, and the $2 million in grants would also be in jeopardy. In summary, failure to adopt this budget would create a financial emergency. The CRA would not be able to pay our bills, and we could, even though we would continue to exist. The obligations due under these contracts and leases remain and will expose the CRA to legal action from vendors, property owners, and contractors. As indicated in this memo, triggering a financial emergency and failing to pay the CRA's obligation will adversely affect the city and the CRA's credit rating. In addition, the City Commission in the fall of 2024 authorized the issuance of the water and sewer bonds to fund critical water and sewer infrastructure projects. These related bonds are scheduled to be issued in 2026 and 2028, and utility rates have already been set to cover these anticipated debt service payments. Any adverse impacts on the city's current credit rating could drive up debt service costs related to those bonds, resulting in potential utility rate increases. That concludes the comments made in the memo that was sent to this board last night.
Thank you for that. Mr. Waters, I believe you've also got some information about impacts to the city.
Morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the Commission. Joshua Waters, I'm the city's budget director. I sent this information yesterday morning to the City Commission, but I've been asked to review it here as well. There are some interactions between the city's budget and the CRA's budget, specifically when it comes to personnel costs covered by the CRA and then administrative charges paid by the CRA. So there are a number of positions, and I've outlined them both in the email that the Commission received as well as on the screen here. These positions are funded in the general fund budget. They're funded either they're in the general government department, either 1033 or 1034, the Northwest CRA or the East CRA. There are a couple of positions on here that are funded in other departments, such as a portion of the city clerk's salary is funded by the CRA. There is also a real property manager that's partially funded by the CRA, partially funded by the city, as well as a community development housing inspector, also partially funded by the city and also partially funded by the CRA. So what happens is the city budgets for these positions in its general fund budget, and then we also have revenue coming in from the CRA to reimburse the city for those personnel costs. So if the CRA budget fails to pass, the revenue would not be coming into the city's budget to pay for those personnel costs, even though the expenditures are in the city's budget for those costs. So at that point, the city's budget would be out of balance with regard to personnel costs. In addition, there are some administrative charges paid by the CRA to the city. Those are booked as revenue for the city. So without that revenue, again, that would throw the city's budget out of balance. So in total, the total interaction for these items is $1.6 million. So without a CRA budget, the city's revenue would be decreased by $1.6 million. And we would have to find other ways to balance the city's budget to make up for that difference. Otherwise, we would not be able to pass a budget next week.
So 1.6 million hole in the city's budget, and if we don't pass a budget at the CRA, can you fill that hole on the city side by the time we have our second budget hearing? And
so we would have limited avenues to take to fill that hole. At the last budget hearing earlier this week, it's been a long week, the last budget hearing earlier this week, the City Commission did lower the millage rate for the city, which resulted in a revenue loss of $575,000. And we were able to find some reductions or cost shifts within that. Oh, there's one other thing. The other item on here, on Monday, when the city adopted a lower millage rate, it shifted $150,000 in costs from the city's capital budget to the CRA to pay for the Habitat for Humanity project. So without that, there would also be, that half of the project wouldn't be funded because it's not currently in the city's budget. So if the city wanted to add, the city commission wanted to add that back to the capital budget, that would create another $150,000. That would add to the whole by $150,000. So all that said, there would be limited avenues. You couldn't look toward the ad valorem rate to restore it back to where it was on Monday because we're advertising. It's going out in the paper tomorrow at the lower rate. So that's not an avenue. So you would have to look at reductions. And there would likely be service level reductions if we were to have to find a hole to pay for $1.6 million. Not likely, there would be service reductions.
Very good. Thank you. Commissioner Seegerson-Eaton?
Just a quick question. Would you explain again, I mean, we've sent out the lower millage, we reduced the millage rate, and can you just explain how that process works and that we cannot raise our millage rate back?
So the Florida trim statute is very strict when it comes to this. So there are two budget hearings that are required under the state's trim law. The first budget hearing was this past Monday. At that hearing, the commission voted to lower the millage rate to where it was, by half a percentage point on the operating millage rate side. And so the advertisement, we're required by state law to advertise in the paper the revised budget, so it's the tentative budget is being advertised tomorrow in the Sun Sentinel, as well as the trim tax notice. And so you can't raise it above that level without having to advertise again. So we would have to go back and re-advertise a higher rate, and we would have to likely do mailings to city residents. It's a very time-consuming process, a very expensive process to do, and frankly, there's just not enough time between now and the end of the fiscal year to accomplish that.
Thank you.
And if I can just build on what Mr. Waters said, if your city budget is not adopted by September 30, on October 1, the city finance director cannot pay anything. The government would completely shut down and you would be in a financial emergency.
Very good. Thank you. Vice Mayor?
I have a question.
Sure.
At the bottom of this email that we received from you yesterday, Mr. Waters, there was language about the McNabb project, money not being expended or encumbered until the board adopts a resolution authorizing it. That sounds a little bit like it's in conflict with what Ms. McKenna said in her opening remarks. Can you clarify that? Ms. McKenna said that any appropriated funds stay with the project and can be spent on that project if they are appropriated in the plan. But this language says that they can't be, so I'm confused.
Well,
What does Mr.
actually, that's not what the language says. If you recall, on Tuesday, what we proposed was that the line item relative to the bond debt service would be basically frozen. It would remain in the budget, but you would have to approve it just, like you do for, any bond issuance. And what this language proposes is to add to the budget resolution that this body has agreed we're not gonna present the bonds until such time as you agree that you want the bonds presented for this fiscal year.
So
we're not changing the budget. We are identifying that line item that is a placeholder for the debt service is not going to be triggered. It will continue to stay in the budget. And then, of course, after you adopt the budget, if you have a meeting and you determine you want to amend your CRA plan to do something different at McNabb, then you have the ability lawfully to do that, and then your next budget would reflect that change in the CRA plan.
Okay, so now I'm actually really confused because in our conversation on Tuesday, it wasn't really about the bonds. We all agreed that eventually the bonds will come back to us and that's a separate vote. It was about changing the name of the project from McNabb House and Botanical Gardens to McNabb Project and saying that no funding, additional funds can be spent on that. Separate of the bonds, the additional, when we were looking at the list, there's already, CRA TIF funding and other funding for that, that no additional funds can be expended on that until this board agrees on what McNabb Project looks like.
So if I may, from a budgeting perspective, I think that what that means is you would appropriate the funds and then fence them off. That language would fence off those funds in the budget, essentially putting a restriction on actually spending those funds until the conditions that the board lays out are met. So you would appropriate the funds and then fence them off until certain conditions are met.
Right, and that is what my understanding was and my reading of the language that you sent us, but then Ms. McKenna's opening statement sounded very much in conflict with that, saying that the funds, if they've been appropriated, they stay with the project and they can be spent up until the time that the plan is changed, not up until the time that the fence is removed. So which one is it?
Okay, so I'm going to read it again. The funds appropriated for such project may not be changed.
So can we add a fence? Is that changing the funds?
That's not changing the funds. You are leaving the funds in the budget, you have appropriated them, and you are staying there. What we did not resolve on Tuesday was what exactly attributable to McNabb would be fenced.
Sorry, so you just started with that, the funds appropriated stay with the project, but there was more to that, about being able to be spent, I believe. Can you read your opening comments there again?
Yes, the funds appropriated for such project may not be changed unless the project is amended, redesigned, or delayed, in which case the funds must be reappropriated pursuant to the next annual budget. So if you amend your CRA plan sometime during fiscal 2026, then your fiscal 27 budget will reappropriate according to whatever you have done in your CRA plan. But as it stands right now, your McNabb project is an approved project for which funds have been appropriated, and those funds need to stay in the budget. Now, timing on spending is something that you can have a conversation about. But certainly you don't want to be in a position where anything that's previously encumbered, in other words, we have a contract with fill in the blank, vendor. If we have that contract, unless you were to vote to terminate that contract, we would continue to pay on that contract. So what we were talking about is trying to identify what you could legally, for lack of a better word, fence, as Mr. Waters said, so that you are not expending the full appropriated amount at this time. And my recollection is that what we recommended was that we suspend the bond issuance dollars that have been appropriated. And I understand that that's not something that you support.
Well, that's just not my recollection. I don't think the bond, obviously, we know has to come back to us and is a separate vote and issue. We were talking about how to, right now, effectively put that on hold until we can come to some agreement on a plan going forward. And one way to do that is, separate of the bond, is to take the additional expenditures that are in the budget this year and freeze that so that we can't spend anything on it and rename it to McNabb Project.
There was certainly a recommendation that you rename it to McNabb Project. I did not hear any concrete discussion about what funds would be identified in the McNabb Project that would be fenced, if you will. And let me perhaps help in this regard. The statutory language that I just read to you is relative to the funds that have been appropriated pursuant to a project in your CRA plan. Each year you have new TIF. that new TIF, and I don't recall what the number is, but that number, and let's just say hypothetically it's $1 million, you have the ability under the statute to do something with that 1 million if you wanted to adjust the budget, because that's new TIF that has not previously been attached to the project. So one of the options that you have this morning is to take a look at your new TIF for this year and determine how you would want to manage that without having any effect on your approved projects.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Waters. Appreciate that. I keep coming back to, we've got an east and a northwest CRA budget. And I hear from some of my colleagues that they've got heartburn over the McNabb project or over the downtown project, and I get it. Okay, you got heartburn, but those projects, both of those projects, are heavily dependent for completion on issuance of bonds. Bonds don't get issued except by this body. I can't just sign for bonds. Mr. Harrison can't just sign for bonds. Ms. McKenna can't sign for bonds. The City Commission and CRA Board, we are the ones who sign for bonds. So in the current situation with 6 members, if 3 members decide they don't want to sign for bonds, those bonds don't get issued, period. End of story, which means that you don't have funding for these projects. At this point in time, the control is there to not move forward with these projects to completion. I hope we do. I support these projects. I support the budget as is. But at this stage in the game, the control still rests with this body. So without an agreement of 4 votes to move forward with bonds, these 2 major projects, one in the east, one in the northwest, don't move forward to completion, period, end of story, full stop. That's just a fact. So if you're concerned about these 2 projects, you can pass this budget because you still have control over these 2 projects. You'll have control if you pass these budgets as is. The control still rests with this body. And that way we can pass the budget, be done with this, do our jobs. Mr. Waters doesn't have to worry about slicing $1.6 billion from the city's budget by Thursday, or Monday, by Monday. And we can all live to fight another day on these issues. We can talk about the CRA plan. We can talk about these projects. We can tinker with these things, because if we are deadlocked 3-3 on these projects forever, they're never going to get to completion. So something's going to have to give long term. But for today, we've got a budget. It needs to be passed. It's lawful. You've heard that from Ms. McKenna. And if we don't pass it, we're in violation of the law. So I get it. You got issues with projects. There's a time and a place to talk about that. At the last moment for a budget is not the time and the place to talk about it. I recommend we move forward with these budgets as is. And as distasteful as it may be for some members of this body, it's the right thing to do. And you still have the control over these projects.
Mayor?
Vice Mayor.
Thank you. I agree the stakes here are quite high, but there's a history, and none of us just arrived here today with a clean slate of trust and no issues. So let me be clear. When the infrastructure bonds for the Northwest come to us, you're right, we have to issue them. You know what we're going to hear? the same dire consequences of how we are going to put the city in jeopardy and financial distress if we don't issue those bonds, how we will be in violation of the MDA, how we will be potentially legally liable for it. We will get another memo on the absolutely dire conditions if we don't issue those bonds. That is the history here. Every point you have to go along with it, or there's dire financial conditions that result. And I agree that there might be, but there is no appetite from this board to ever talk about things, compromise, or work on them until we hit a crisis point. There is never an interest in compromising and saying, okay, what do you need to move forward? So we are here for a reason, and it is history. We didn't just show up here this morning at 8:30. We've been at this for a long time not being heard. And I understand, and we all understand, that there are other votes that will come to be for these projects. But at those points, again, we will be told why we have to vote for it or what the consequences are. And today is as good a day as any to talk about what we're going to do going forward and how we're going to resolve some of this and how we're going to compromise so that we don't have to do this at the bond issuances and at every other point along the way.
Very, very good. Thank you, Vice. I appreciate that. With all due respect, though, this is not a typical crisis that faces the city or the CRA. This is a state-mandated must. This isn't, okay, well, you're going to be in default of this agreement with this developer or with this agreement with this contractor. This is the state of Florida says we shall, and we shall by such and such a time. And the time is getting very short. I hear what you're saying. This is not a typical crisis in the city of Pompano Beach. So to equate this with anything else that's happened, this is not like anything else that has happened in this city, or many cities for that matter. To not be able to pass a budget, I mean, this just doesn't happen. I mean, it's Armageddon, as Ms. McKenna has told us, as I think we all know. So, with all due respect, this is a different crisis, and one that I think we need to just solve, move forward, live to fight another day if that's what it takes. And that is what it will take, of course, because we are deadlocked. But to hold the city taxpayers, it's the city taxpayer, the CRA budgets, that's city taxpayers. To hold the city taxpayers hostage at this point in time, it's just, I can't support it, of course, but I'm just one. So, but thank you. I appreciate it.
And I view it as you've been holding them hostage for years. So we all view it differently.
Very good. I've got Commissioner Fessick.
Thank you. Couple things. Yes, we're going to have to, I hear a lot of have tos, and I would have to agree with Vice Mayor on the portion where we did not get to this point where we are right now, yesterday. We didn't even get to it it's probably been, how long have you been a commissioner, Commissioner Perkins? I mean, I've heard you say from sitting right here and before when I was sitting in the audience, years, that so many times you would stand up for what you felt was right for the residents that you serve, and you were completely strong-armed or just discounted because there was not a 3-3 vote. It was always 5-1 or 4-2 or whatever it might be. We are in a situation at this point where the residents have actually spoken via elections to have their voice heard and know that who they put in the place will represent those people. It just so happens that the 3-3 vote makes things a little bit more confusing or unpalatable. I wouldn't even say to leaves a bad taste in mouths or whatever. It's not from the yes actually to everything is what's been leaving a bad taste in the mouth of residents. I am happy to hear though that Mayor, that you said that it's the city taxpayers when referring to the CRA budget, because that's something that we have yelled and screamed. I believe, Vice Mayor, I think one of your things was very repetitive at some point during one of the meetings. Who pays for it? Not TIF funding, the taxpayers. So the taxpayers, the taxpayers, the taxpayers. Yes, finally we're in agreement, so we have reached a compromise, that we all agree that the taxpayers are paying for all of our projects within the city and or CRA, and there is not a magic money tree that magically happens and spits out a bunch of cash through TIF funding. So this is allocations of dollars that we are responsible for managing one way or another. Some of the plans that have come through. My concern is, I heard we are legally required to adopt a budget, not this budget, a budget. So if we are to do that, we will have to come to the table and compromise. And part of the compromise is not sending I understand there's financial implications, but it's not sending an 11th hour, as some people like to say, 11th hour memo or 11th hour crisis mode. That this is something that with quite honestly on this list, and I understand, but quite honestly on this list, there's some sort of stuff that's a little fluffy. Yeah, you have bills you need to pay. Well, we would have to reallocate that. So maybe what we do is we figure out through a budget, not this budget, we figure out what those things are and we make sure we pay those things. And if it comes to, and Commissioner Segerstein, just to say, we can't. So, okay, so that's, why are we here? If we can't do things as a body and as a board, and I would say in terms of failure, if you're gonna look at a failure of something, the failure is that we've not been able to have this conversation well in advance. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again, I've called out my father for saying this to me, drilling it into my head as a child. Failure to plan on your part does not constitute an emergency on mine. I had emails from February, March, May, asking specifically, I want to discuss this McNabb House project. This is important to me. I'm tired of getting the runaround. We had meetings canceled. We've refused to discuss it. I was actually told by our city manager that I wasn't allowed to tell him what to put on the budget, on the agenda, that staff would tell me when they were ready. Well, okay. Well, now I'm going to tell them that I'm ready to discuss it. We are at this point. And it's not just that one project. It's all the projects. It's all the things. We sat here, we get barraged, and again, it picked right up again. The social media, picked up just everything, trying to be negative. I'm not trying to be negative. I'm trying to work together. I'm trying to compromise. I'm trying to do what's right for the residents. So I'm actually more offended that, again, I'm not being heard. And I'm going to just take this to the not being heard level and go in a different direction. I started off this meeting saying there's something very important to me, that I changed my plans to be here on purpose and spent over $1,000 because I found out that I would not be allowed to attend remotely. And I started this meeting off saying, we need to fix that. And it was immediately discredited and moved right back to the agenda meeting. Just listened to, heard. I said, so I will make that motion just because now I'm in it. I would like to make the motion that we allow for any remote viewing or remote attending in the event that one of us cannot attend. For the simple, and it is because if we are in the situation again, I'm not going to feel strong-armed.
Commissioner Fesick, honestly, we're dealing with the budget matter.
Yes, we are, and if we need to have another extension of the meeting, Mayor, nope. I will make a motion to allow for.
And Commissioner Fesick, I am going to rule you out of order.
Okay.
To deal with that matter at this time. Thank you.
When it comes down to the time when somebody else is not able to attend, then I'm sure that we'll probably feel a little bit differently about that.
Mayor.
Commissioner Fesick.
I'm not done yet.
Okay.
Oh, I was not done.
Sure. That's why I.
All right, can I be next?
Sure, you can be
Yes.
next.
Thank you.
Yes.
Good. I take offense to the fact that this is even presented. And I came here and I said for ages, I'm willing to sit down and have a conversation. The reality is we're not having a conversation. The behavior that you just exhibited shows me your intent to not work together. The behavior that I see from pretty much everybody, finding legal loopholes and words that are meant to pressure. That's not what we're supposed to do here. We're supposed to come together and discuss, not coerce. Thank you.
Commissioner Segerson-Eaton.
Thank you, Mayor. And as far as the comment I made as I was going to use the restroom, it is a fact. We can't. If we don't pass a budget, if we don't pass the CRA budgets with the accommodations that I think that have been explained, is we just put that placeholder because we're required by law to do it, because we've had it on the books prior to your election, Commissioner Fessick, and that is just the way the lay of the land. That's been done by previous commissions, as many things have been done that sometimes you just can't undo. And I said we can't, because the fact of the matter is, if we don't pass the CRA budget, we can't pass a city budget, and we can't do anything regarding payments, obligations. We cannot, by law, do anything if the city gets shut down. And that's just a fact. I didn't make the law. And I know that I'm following the law. And I do believe it's like you can't understand, you think that the entire city staff is lying to you. It seems that you have a distrust, but it is the facts. The facts have been spelled out, and they are clear as day. And so, I mean, and we've talked about it, and the mayor talked about it. The bond issues, both the West CRA and the East CRA, right? You don't like the McNabb project. You think it should be something else. If we don't have a 4-2 vote on issuing those bonds for the Botanical Gardens, it doesn't pass. Okay, but you're worried about the future. As Vice Mayor Forney said too, well, we know what's going to happen. Do you really know what's going to happen in the future? Do you know that perhaps the new downtown is going to change or morph into something that Commissioner Perkins wants, or the Northwest community wants? How can you predict the future? So I don't understand it. I know that I'm in favor of this budget. I may be in favor of I am in favor of the new downtown, and I am in favor of the Botanical Gardens, but we're not talking about projects here or management issues. We're talking about doing what is required by us by law. And I know that I'm not going to be the one that is potentially removed by the governor, because I'm following the law. Because the city needs to go forward, and we've spelled out the ramifications. And, you know, I don't want to sort of listen to your feeling like you're being insulted or you can't take a vacation, because you have to be here. So thank you.
Okay, we're done now.
She did say that.
Okay, we're not going to get personal.
Well, I mean,
you could talk about things that were brought up, Commissioner Seegerson, but we're not going
right,
to.
very well.
All
Well,
right,
let me just recant that statement. But look, things have been done in the past that can't be undone unless we undo them. You've been told how many times we have to abide by the law. We have a plan in place in the CRA. That plan can be changed. Who knows? Maybe you should, convince the rest of us to try to have us come over to your side, whatever. And again, I hope, Mayor, that you admonish Commissioner Fessick, as I can see her loaded for bear in retort to what I said. But it's true, but we're here. We're here now, again, continuing a meeting that we spent, 7 hours the day before yesterday on, and we're talking about the same things, and it just doesn't seem to sink in. We have to do this or the city shuts down. And then, thank you. And it's like, I don't hear alternatives. I don't hear alternative numbers on these budgets. And you're at the 11th hour, yes, you have different numbers that you're gonna think you can drop in. And Vice Mayor Fournier, you don't like the budget, but what alternative do you have to offer? We've been in budget meetings at your request, starting in April of the year, to start them early. We've been working on this process since April. And now all of a sudden, no, you don't think it's right? So I mean, what do you expect? What do you expect here? We're all trying to move this city forward now. We can sit here for another 8 hours, but I don't think it's going to move it. Thank you.
Very good. Commissioner
I had
Fessick?
only one thing to say. Commissioner, I don't presume to think or to announce to the public what you think. And I will tell you right now, do not ever presume to tell people what I am thinking or feeling and announce it as truth, because you do not know me and you do not know what I'm thinking. Thank you.
Or what?
Commissioner Eaton, you can see Eaton. It's okay. Let's.
Mayor?
It's not going to get personal. Please. I've got Vice Mayor, then Commissioner Smith.
Thank you. I do think that we spend a lot of time on the budget, and we have one-on-one meetings, we have follow-up meetings when necessary, and I have been very clear about, up here and in other meetings, about my concerns and opposition to certain parts of this, including voting no to these last year for the same reasons. So I'm sorry if you haven't heard that, but that has been clear every step along the way. With respect to the memo, since that came up, I do want to point something out that is part of the problem here. Even just reading this memo about the catastrophic implications, the way things are posed when there are projects in the Northwest is different than projects in the East. So I don't know if that's designed to undermine Commissioner Perkins more than she already is, but there's one here that says the land acquisition to replace the District 4 substation of $4 million will be eliminated and the project will not materialize. That's pretty big language. But when we talk about the McNabb House, it just says it would be in jeopardy. Grant funding or this could be in jeopardy, but this substation that's we've been talking about for years and years and hasn't had no progress on is going to be eliminated and won't materialize. There's a difference in the language that is used when it's projects that are important to the Northwest community. Same thing with the 6th Avenue. It'll just be gone. Whereas if it's East projects, they'd be at risk. And this is exactly what we're talking about up here. There is a spin and a bias that goes on in this city, and we have seen it up here, and so many of us have seen it in emails and other things that have gone on, and we're not trying to be conspiracy theorists or gotcha. We're trying to get transparency, fairness, and eliminate this insider, shadow government that seems to be going on here. So for me, and I've said this, and I'll probably say it at every meeting going forward, I cannot move forward with our current city leadership. That's where I am at. There is no trust. There is no way forward based on the things I've seen, the things I've been told, the conversations I've had, the misleading statements, the lies that I can move forward. And I'm not talking about budgets. I just mean in general with making progress in this city until we clean some of this up. It is time to clean it up. I think that's all I have right now. I mean, I don't know how to move us forward today, and I think we all want to move forward. I don't know that any of us know how to get there. It sounds like the mayor and Commissioner Segerson-Eaton just say, "Oh, you just have to vote for this, Ms. McKenna." Well, I'd love to vote for this. I'd love for this to be a budget and a plan that works, where we all feel like, okay, this is what's going to happen going forward, but it's not. And all of the input over the last year or years that I know I've been giving isn't in here. So I don't know, we don't know how to be heard, and it's time, here it is, and this is the result of that. So yes, we are in an emergency situation, but perhaps it's time for some of the people who vote yes to everything to think about what you're going to do, because we've been elected more recently in some ways from the sentiment of the community seeing things they don't like going on in the city. They're sick of everyone voting yes to everything and having these bad plans forced down their throats. They are sick of it. If you have to stand out at early voting like some of us do and listen to people, you'd learn a lot about what people want. And I know I view my job as representing that. And that means I don't say yes to everything. I say yes to things that reflect what they want. Thank you.
Very good. Commissioner Smith.
Couple comments based on comments that have been said. Taxpayers don't pay for the CRA, but I think what mayor was insinuating is the CRA does services that benefit the taxpayers. And we voted on one where we're buying property up to develop it so we can build housing. They do a lot more than downtown and the McNabb Botanical Gardens, especially in the Northwest. And the projects in the east, they're all settled, they're approved, we're moving forward. But we have a lot of things in the Northwest that are new projects, which is probably why the wording is a little bit different, Vice Mayor, because we do have new projects like the 6th Avenue improvements and getting rid of the roundabouts, the BSO substation in District 4. Those are new projects that are part of this budget, and if the budget's not approved, they're not going to happen. Not that they won't come back on a subsequent budget next year, but they won't be there for this year. So taxpayers have a loss of services if we don't move forward. Also, the CRA, they're regulated to present this budget. They're presenting by law what has to be presented based upon the projects, as Mrs. McKenna has stated, based upon the projects that have previously been approved. So we, by law, have to have the numbers that are in these two budgets. Not to say, as we've been informed, that we can't change things in 26 that impact the 27 budget. But by law, we have to do the 26 budget. We do have a workshop planned for downtown, October 20th. And we're gonna have that. The McNabb Botanical Gardens, we've workshopped a lot over probably the last 5 years, and the public spoke at that what they wanted. So that's what we're moving forward. It doesn't mean that it can't be revisited, but they have spoken, and there have been a lot of outreach to community. So the downtown, we're workshopping on October 20th. Taxpayers, if we don't pass this, and gosh, I hope that you see that your hands aren't tied forever, we just need to get over this hurdle, then let's address what 27 is going to look like. 26 has to move forward, or we're in jeopardy. The city is in jeopardy, our CRA is in jeopardy, staff is in jeopardy. Based upon the comments I've heard thus far, that's just what I would like to respond to at this time, Mayor.
Very good. I just want to say that these budgets, whether it's the city budget or the CRA budgets, that's a financial document. It's got nothing to do with who the city manager is, who the CRA director is, city staff is. This is a financial document that we have to pass per law. And I'm just a little concerned. So, and I'm going to ask the question, Vice Mayor, you indicated that you're holding this budget hostage because you want a change of city leadership as far as the CRA executive director and city manager? Is that what you're saying?
No, I would never use the word holding it hostage. I think you and your fellow colleagues have held this commission hostage for a year, not listening to or cooperating or ever compromising on anything we want. So if anyone's held this city hostage to against what the residents want, it's the gang of yeses that just say yes to everything the city wants. I have been saying this for months now, that I don't have confidence in our city leadership, so we give them the budget, right? And what always comes back is they move forward with things, and the answer is, you approved it in the budget. How did this happen? You approved it in the budget. How did this happen? Oh, it was in the budget. So we are not, it's not just a budget, we are approving what they're going to do for the next year. And I don't have confidence in our city leadership.
Very good. So let me rephrase it then. Perhaps it was too strong a word. So in other words, you can't support this budget because of Greg Harrison as our city manager. Is that what you're saying?
Is that less strong wording?
I didn't use the word hostage.
Progress, compromise. There's many things in here that we need to talk about, right? So I think maybe we need to get back to talking about some of the substance here, or we can just sit here and throw insults at each other all day.
I'm not trying to insult you at all.
No, I've said this very clearly. I do not have faith in the executive director of the CRA or a city manager. So it is hard to move forward with anything. And I've said that we did this last meeting and several meetings ago in his review. It is hard for me to move forward with confidence in any big decisions in this city when I am giving him so much power. This and other big decisions give him the power to execute, and I don't have confidence. But I do, maybe at some point here we should talk about, the language and the East CRA and the McNabb Park issue, and if there's something we can do to fence off the funds or not, so we can try to make progress. Although I don't know how we'll make progress on the Northwest, or we can sit here and have these conversations. Do I think given our city manager and how, you know what, let's say he has done the most fabulous job and led our city through these great times and gotten us to this amazing position. But maybe it's time. Just maybe it is time to start a transition in leadership in our city because of the dysfunction that is going on here and how that has resulted from some of us and our residents saying, we want something different. We want transparency. We want, more technology. We want a different looking, forward-looking future city government. Maybe it is time, and I would challenge you as the leader of this body and seeing what's been going on here, you should be saying, you know what, maybe it is time to start a transition plan. That's my challenge to you. Instead of just saying yes to everything and going along with it, maybe you should be talking to Mr. Harrison and saying, you've done a great job. It is time to start a transition to figure out what the next generation of leadership looks like in our city.
Very good. I just wanted to, I thought I heard that, you couldn't support this budget because of city leadership as far as Mr. Harrison. I just wanted to make sure that was accurate. Thank you.
Mayor.
Commissioner Fessick.
Commissioner Smith, I want to say thank you for saying again that and explaining that, yes, the taxpayers are definitely in charge of this budget. We, the city, the taxpayers are, just to clarify, are paying for the land and buying things and services. It doesn't come from, again, magic money. The CRA does get paid for. And as per our memo, the city's on the hook and taxpayers are on the hook for anything we do or don't do within the CRA. So we buy land, it costs money, the money comes from taxpayers. We buy services, taxpayers. So it doesn't come from magic money that's in the air. It comes from tax. There's a bill to pay. Secondly, going back to what Vice Mayor said was about communication within the city. And what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing with the communication in the city is we've been asked up here, well, bring some ideas or whatever. No. That's not our job to bring all of the ideas. We sat here for how many hours yesterday? How many hours? Many, many times discussing specific things that were important to the people that we represent. And instead of writing a 4-page or 3-page memo and sending out emails, staff could have heard what we said and tried to find alternate ways that we would be able to amend or find ways that we could legally work with we have to pass a budget, yes, but we could have found ways that we could have worked together or they could have presented opportunities. So rather than us just throwing spaghetti at a wall and hoping that something is going to work through something that means something to our residents, I'm not an attorney, but I know what my residents want. I'm not a lot of things, but what I am is willing to look at things and I'm willing to research things and I'm willing to open and communicate, and I'm willing to find ways to compromise, but I find that is not happening because I would have to agree with leadership. Leadership should have said, because if it was me running it, I would have gone back after that absolute show and hours of meeting, after the first one, and just gone back and said, all right, guys, conference room huddle, we have a problem here. Clearly we have a problem back in, as soon as we were all sworn in November, clearly we have a problem. We have to fix some things, and we're gonna have to change how we're approaching this, because there would have had to be a genuine desire to work with all of us. And there has not been. At the end of this past meeting, since this is a very important thing, and I understand it, we have to pass a budget. Everybody had something to say, and everybody was very respectful for the most part. Staff should have, under the leadership, been directed to find ways to compromise and find ways to offer solutions that could somewhere be able to meet in the middle. As far as the whole, I've heard, just since I spoke last, I heard we have to move forward, we have to get over this hurdle, we must do this. There's the amount of constant barrage of almost trying to just point a finger and say, if you don't do this, well, you know what? I'm beginning to wonder if this isn't like a big, messy closet. One that you've just shoved crap into, like the entire, it's piled up. That's what the city feels like right now. There's a bunch of stuff that we have to do, we have to deal with, and we're sort of just shove it in a closet, and we're like, we'll deal with it later. But this closet is overfull, it's just overfull, and it's gonna fall apart. And the only way sometimes to take care of it is you empty the freaking closet. You empty it out and you start sorting through it. And it's messy, and it's crazy. It looks like your whole house blew up sometimes when you pull all the stuff out of this closet. But the only way to move forward is to move through it. And first you have to do is you have to blow it up, empty it, and start over. You gotta figure out what you keep selling and tossing. We need to do that in here. We need to do not just with this budget, but we need to do that with the city in general. We are all over the place, and we are spending like drunken, insane teenagers that are in college with daddy's black card. It's insane. The projects that mean the most to residents, your substation, safety. We're trying to pinch pennies to pay for BSO updates and more staff. Why? Because we've overspent in this corner. We're applying dollars to CRA plans. And by the way, let's go back and talk about this budget with the CRA plans. We're applying this money. We have been spending, and we've invested as citizens, the opportunity for the CRA to exist. Year over year, if you look at cost of living and cost of goods, you can average about 7 to 8% of what the cost will go up. And yet at least in the East CRA, so since 2001, our tax base has been frozen. We only get 5% of that incremental tax revenue that comes back to the city. But expenses continue to go up. So the way I look at it is we're essentially operating a 3% loss every year for the past 24 years. Some cases more, some cases less. Since the Northwest CRA had the lowest tax base in 1989, we're frozen. The city, for 3,000 plus acres of land, the city is frozen in getting a very small amount of the lowest tax base that we ever had probably in ages. And we're still there. Who's getting rich? Who's making money? Well, it's not the city. And that's the problem. It's the projects, because the money is all allocated to CRA budgets. So we have to be really careful about what we do with these CRA budgets, because you have to understand that that is our taxpayer money that should be coming back to the city. That's what people signed on for, the 30-year plan. But we've extended one, we're extended another. When are taxpayers going to see the benefit of what they've signed on to through a CRA? What point do we become responsible stewards of that money that's coming in and not spend it? And spend future money on top of that. I hear everybody come in here in the Northwest, in your district. I hear people from all walks of life say, we are failing residents as a city. We're failing them. Schools, and I understand there's certain things at the county level. Schools, safety, road paving. I mean, you name it, we have problems here. And so this is not just about one budget. They're all linked. I want to work together, and I want to find a compromise, and I understand we have to do something, But until we actually get to the point where we're willing to have those conversations without the have-tos, gonnas, you're doing this, and without the threats, and without the personal attacks, you know, that's time to empty the closet. And I would have to agree, it comes down to leadership, and we are severely lacking in a decent leadership at this point, or a strong leadership at this point, because a strong leader would actually listen to what the residents get up here every time and say, and not the ones that come parading through for a purpose, for whatever, when there's an important vote that we need to put the pressure on or put the heat on. No. The ones who come on a Tuesday at 1 p.m. or 6 p.m. because they can finally make it to a thing, and they're somebody who do not follow the antics that go on here. They're people who actually just care about something that's bothering them. Lights in the windows that still haven't been, you know, they're flooding their windows. A car that's parked outside. Trash parking lot. Most people don't want to deal with the intricacies of this, and that's why they elected us, to do it for them. So yeah, I'll take the heat, but I'll take the heat when I need to take the heat. But I'm going to also tell you that I know what the residents have said to me, and even up until last night, said, and this morning, text messages, hold your ground, fight for us, do what's right. Don't let them get you down. Those are the messages I received. So thank you.
Very good. Commissioner Perkins.
Thank you, Mayor. Just for the record, I wanted to say that the Northwest 6th Avenue project has been in place for the last 4 years, just sitting there. And every time we have a budget meeting, it just moves to the next meeting and the next, next budget, next budget. But the funding has been there for the last 4 years. The substation, the funding has been there for the last 5 years. It's just sitting there, and it moves to the next budget, to the next budget, to the next budget. And then we have, I was asking Mr. Harrison the other day, well, I don't see my $3 million for the addition for the Senior Activity Center. Oh, well, we pushed that back to 2028. So I found out later, the reason it was pushed to 2028 is, well, we had to put the money into the fire station in District 5. So it's pushed back. However, our last city commissioner meeting, we found $1 million to upgrade the Charlotte Burry Center. So it tells you the priority of our city manager, staff, and the three of you that vote together up here. So if I'm getting everything I need in my district and listening to my residents and asking for those requests, I would probably be voting with you all, because I'm getting what the residents want, but I'm not getting that. So that's why we're so divided here. And we can go all day talking about what each other has to say, but nobody's listening to really anybody. I don't think anybody here has changed their mind before or anything. All you know is this budget needs to be passed, and it's important, and if you don't, you're in jeopardy. And ooh, the governor can move you if he wants to. We're still looking out for the residents. So, we can go back and forward, but anybody looking and watching can see there's a lot of bias going on up here. It's very clear, because what the vice mayor is saying, she's been saying since she's been on the dais, and Commissioner Fezzik, she's been saying the same thing since she's been here in November. And of course, I've been saying the same thing, and Mayor, you've been up here 19 years, so you pretty much know how this works. You know how this works. So, as I have said here on this dais, for the years that I've been here, I've been overpowered, didn't get a lot of things I wanted on this dais, and I was still attacked. And everybody got what they wanted, except me. So here I am, and it's 3-3, so let's just give Beverly a little bit of what she wants right now. But I took that for several years, and I will always fight for what the people want. And I think that's very clear with all of us sitting up here. But some of us get what we want and some of us don't. And here we are. Passed the budget. Thank you, Mayor.
Very good. Commissioner Segerson-Eaton?
Thank you, Mayor. You know, I don't think that some of what Commissioner Perkins said is actually accurate, and I would like someone from staff to talk about the senior center. And as I recall, we purchased, maybe that would be Newen, Earl, Brian. The fire stations were paid for out of the GO bond. My improvements, the connectivity to the neighborhood, has been in the works for over 6-7 years. It's been in the CIP, I would say 6. It's been in CIP for 6 years, and it's finally commencing maybe by the end of the year. And we purchased a piece of property over by the senior center to expand the parking lot at $750. At your request, Commissioner Perkins, and where the city did that, and that wasn't in the CIP plan.
What do you mean, my
Wait,
request? What is she talking about?
Are you asking a question?
All right, I'm going to ask Newen to spell it out for the record, because I don't think you were completely accurate.
Okay, so
And I also want to know, I also want to know when we started generating the Northwest 6th Avenue project, because to me, in my mind, that was rather recently. So thank you, Newen, and any member of staffs who can address some of, I think, are inaccurate claims that Commissioner Perkins has made. Thank you.
So, okay, do you get that? Can
So, good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the CRA Board, new and trans CRA Director. I can only address 2 of those because the Senior Center is a GO bond and a city project. The Northwest 6th Avenue started right around 2023. So,
Right.
you know, it takes a while, as you have said, Mayor, multiple times. Government doesn't move that fast. We had to get drawings done. We had to get, you know, the designers on board to actually do the drawings and bid it out. And then we finally went through the procurement process and found the qualified vendor, Alexander Johnson, and awarded the contract at the last meeting. So that one started in 2023. With respect to the substation, we were asked to put that in our budget this year. That was not in our budget for acquisition for the VSO substation. We have talked about a replacement substation a long time ago when the Braggs and Criswell was demolished for the Marquee. That one, you know, as you recall, the CRA donated the land and moved it down to the Collier City area. So that substation is a different one. But the funding for the acquisition for the new substation was just put in this budget year.
Very good. Mr. Segerson-Eaton?
Yeah, and someone from the city can talk to me about,
Probably answer the senior center question.
oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Sure. Again, Joshua Waters, City's Budget Director. So the Senior Center was a new project added this year to the capital budget. It is funded $3 million, currently in the capital budget, $3 million for fiscal year 2028. When the budget was presented, the preliminary budget was presented to the commission back in June, there was a project for that year for a fire station in 2028. However, after further discussions with the commission during the one-on-one meetings and further discussions with the fire chief, it was determined that that project was put in prematurely. And so that project for the fire station was removed from the preliminary capital budget that we discussed with you guys back in June. And so that freed up capacity where the senior center could be added to the capital budget. But since the fire station was in the capital budget for 2028, the capacity existed in 2028 to put the senior center there. If the desire of the commission is to move that forward to 2026 or 2027, capacity will need to be found in those years to put the funding there in those years. So that's just to clarify that there's a senior center in the capital budget. It's funded, it's in there preliminarily for $3 million in fiscal 28.
Is that,
Yep.
Commissioner Seegerstein?
Yes, and I also just want to point out as well, all of the funding that went into the Northwest community for the new fire stations and all the park renovations, the new parks, the new football field, the new concession stand, the new bathrooms at, I want to say Apollo Park, but I don't think it's Apollo Park. So those were all part of the GO bonds, as were many other projects. And as I recall, Commissioner Perkins, the fact is you voted against the GO bond that provided all those
Yes, I
all
did.
those programs.
And I'm benefiting from it. Yes.
You know, I just think for the record that I disagree that you say I just asked for the Bury connectivity project in the last year and I just get it. What are you implying? I just get what I want when I snap my fingers? Why would that be? Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
Mayor?
Commissioner Perkins?
Yes, we can go back and forth with all of this, and you can tell it's a 3-3 again here today. Based on the conversation, we're getting absolutely nowhere. However, we are getting a chance to vent, and the people are listening, so that's a good thing. It's always good to talk it out, and everybody wants to be right, and somebody else wants to prove somebody wrong. Everybody wants something different, but one thing we have in common, Commissioner, we all love Pompano. Do you agree with that? We all love
Well,
Pompano.
I do love Pompano, and I'm going to see this budget pass because I don't want Pompano Beach to go down in flames.
One at a time.
How we go about doing things and making decisions is where the conflict comes in, and that's pretty normal because everybody has a different opinion on everything. And we all love Pompano. That's all I can say. But I'm not going to debate back and forward with the commissioner about her district and my district or whatever. It's all Pompano, and the residents deserve better from all of us sitting up here. Thank you.
Very good. I just want to briefly, I think we all got this email letter from the Northwest CRA Advisory Committee talking about they do not support a reduction in tax increment financing to they have strong opposition to any proposal that would reduce the tax increment financing allocation of the Northwest Community Redevelopment area. I'm sure we all got this. Just want to put that on the record from them. Yes.
Mayor, I was confused about that memo, actually, because we talked about that at our budget session back in June or July, whenever that was, and we were told legally that we probably couldn't do that, and that seemed to be put to rest then. So I was a little confused what prompted that, or who asked someone to write a memo, or how that went down, because that hasn't been a conversation in a while. So it's another one of those things that's a little confusing. I also I want to clarify the record, because maybe I misheard, but I heard you like protesting a little when Commissioner Fezzik was speaking, but I heard Commissioner Smith say taxpayers don't pay for the CRA. Did I mishear that?
What I said, the impact on the taxpayers with not having the CRA are projects and services that we have that benefit them, like improving property, the 6th Avenue improvements, the substation, the property that we approved the other day. Those are things that benefit our taxpayers. It's not that the taxpayers are paying for them, because they're paid by the TIF through the CRA, not the taxpayers.
So that's where I want to be really clear when we say it's paid through TIF and the CRA, not the taxpayers. That's not correct. So CRAs are funded by the taxpayers.
Within the district.
Sure, within the district. If you want
Not all taxpayers.
However, if the CRAs sunset, so for example, the East CRA was scheduled to sunset in 2031. So the TIF, or the tax increment financing, that is taxpayer dollars, and it would go right back to the city into the city budget to be spent on infrastructure, paving roads. The taxpayers are paying for this. It is a siphon, basically. So if this is all the tax dollars that come in, take a chunk of it from 3,084 acres in the Northwest, a lot of your district too, and siphon that off, and that doesn't go to the, and then take some from the east and siphon that off, and what's left comes to the city. But this is all taxpayer dollars. They're just siphoned to different places. And the Northwest CRA dollars are supposed to be spent, have to be spent only in the Northwest CRA. And our problem, or my problem with that, is it's 3,084 acres, which includes Collier City and a lot of neighborhoods that have been left behind. And that money, for the most part, has been spent to service debt, bonds that we take out, debt to landscape Atlantic Boulevard and take a lane out of Atlantic Boulevard. How did that help the Northwest community? It has been used to do the backyard and south and all of that part of the CRA district east of Dixie Highway. How did that help the Northwest community? It's not that they're not pretty projects, but it's 3,084 acres of our city, and most of the money is being spent in this really concentrated area that's not filtering out into the rest of the district, the rest of the CRA. And in the east, my issue is we did a great job, right? The east, you talk about all the time, you go to the beach, it's beautiful. The east, they did great. And when I heard the other day that we spent, what, 45 million or something at the beach? And then we're going to spend almost 30 just on a house and park. I mean, I was like, we did all the beach for 45. Like, Nguyen, you guys did a fabulous job there. Sunset the CRA, take your victory lap. Because the East CRA is small, and most of it's been redone. The Atlantic Boulevard Bridge, the beach, the streetscapes, most of it has been done. And then that siphon, so that money, the property tax dollars, it's siphoned off into just that little area to pay for debt on the McNabb house, can come back to the city and be used on other things we need. The taxpayers pay for CRAs. The idea that they don't is got to be. We've got to clarify that, and I will do it every time if necessary. But the taxpayers pay for CRAs.
Mayor, may I?
Good.
You want to go first?
No,
Ms.
that's what I just wanted, I was going to ask.
So let me respond to what you're saying is how does that benefit the Northwest, right? And you're saying all this siphon. The reality is we've always presented just within the district of what that growth is. What is the growth on the city side, outside of that district? So what that investment did, especially on the east is very small, right? We agree, it's only one block north and south. So the investment made by just the taxpayers within that district, what did that generate the growth for all the other taxing authorities outside that district?
Sure, great job. That's what I say. Great job.
Billions.
Great job.
So your windfall
Go
of
ahead.
$4 million is what you're saying, generated billions for the city, the county, the hospital district, the school district. That is the benefit. With the city, they had all this part in their general fund to put into road paving. So without our investment as that economic engine, you, the taxpayer on the city side, is getting the benefit. We're only getting the benefit now with the W coming in, with the mailer coming in. But all that investment, that little bit of investment, generated billions for the city.
And that's why what do I always tell you? What do I say, Nguyen? I said, you did a great job.
Same thing with
Congratulations. The
land
CRA
values.
was a huge success.
Look at your land values as a homeowner. A typical increase in property values is so much. But when we reinvest in an area, it's exponential.
I'm going to take a little exception to that because there have been external reasons why home values have gone up that have nothing to do with the East CRA around the. So in my district, in District 1, South Florida was a winner of COVID, and the real estate market took off here, and we all know that. And that has nothing to do with the CRA. That's universal in South Florida. Okay, yes, did the CRA do a great job? I say that all the time. I told you, take your victory lap and move on and let the money come back to the city, because to continue it as a bonding agency forever just to pay debt for this one project that we have financial concerns about is irresponsible.
It will generate millions for the city outside the district.
And there's a couple of things I want to clarify. So the substation, that is in the CRA budget now, but that was in the CIP plan before. So Commissioner Perkins is right that we've been talking about that Bragg's Criswell substation for a long time. So this is where we're getting into like these details, trying to prove each other right and wrong. That's a total waste of time. But like that was in the CIP, then it disappeared, and now it's in the CRA. So it's moved around for a while. So anyway.
Very good.
Mayor, really quick. And I mean, Josh can clarify. For the substation, we have construction in our budget. We were discussing what do we do for land acquisition. If you recall, the city manager drove around with Commissioner Perkins to try to look at 5 or 6 locations. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. They landed in a particular location. Then we were looking at fund balance with all the competing interests for fund balance and how we can fund that acquisition. The owner of the site they were looking at wanted a lot more money than we thought the site was worth, like exponentially more. So we went to the CRA and we said, okay, you know, there's all these discussions about reducing the TIF, right? Why not look at a city project that we have some construction for in the out years, but we still need to find that property to construct it on. And there was a real wish to have it back on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, which is where the original substation was, right? And a site was identified. There's still no movement with the owner because they're not willing to agree to a reasonable price at this point. I can report back to the commission on any recent discussions with our real property manager on that owner. My point is that instead of bringing that item as part of our budget for consideration on how to fund it, we went to the CRE and said, can you fit that in your budget? And that's exactly what they've presented to you, and they've presented to you earlier this week, and they're presenting to you this evening, is a set aside of $4 million funded by the Northwest CRA District. There is construction in the CIP budget. I don't remember what year it is, but we obviously have to acquire the property first to move that project forward. Thank you.
Very good. Commissioner Smith, did she?
With regards to the Northwest CRA, there's a whole lot more that the CRA does than just the downtown project. So I want to address that because it's not just the downtown project. You guys make a difference in a lot of area of the Northwest with your projects of helping with accumulating land, taking down blight areas. That's not part of the downtown. So it's much bigger than that. That's why we have extra projects. And can you just explain some of the stuff that you do that's not the downtown project?
Yes, so we do a lot of acquisitions in the Northwest, and a lot of what has been happening is a lot of single-family infill lots. Those are all affordable lots. I mean, those that's been on this board for that long time. I mean, it started with Kenny Davis for a total of probably 39 single-family homes that were income restricted for affordability. But also, you know, developments like Hunter's Manor that took a while to plat, and we got 59 single-family homes there. You know, we try to balance it. You know, before City Vista, that was CRA-owned land. That was the first one that went up as a mixed-use building, and that's 100% tax credit, so that's affordable. We partnered with Sonata. Sonata was going to be 100% tax credit affordable, but we partnered to try to mix the income to bring, you know, some comparables to the area where there was no market rate comparables. So, you know, there's a lot of things we do safety-wise. You know, we work with BSO on cameras. We improve Annie Adderley Gillis Park for open space. We help look at problem properties to acquire the problem properties that may be drug homes and try to change the area. There is a whole list of stuff that we do that is not just the downtown, but as you've heard me say it, the downtown is our economic engine to generate that revenue so that we can put it into neighborhoods. If you look in your budget, you know, there's a line item there for, you know, down payment assistance. I mean, that was something that can be generated from the revenues of the downtown to help, you know, people buy down the cost of homes. You know, our goal isn't to build income restricted, deed restricted, affordable. Our goal is to buy down the cost, so it doesn't just keep the area down, but it helps people get into those homes that isn't income restricted. If they just made a little more, they wouldn't qualify. So maybe we can help buy down those costs. So we put in $1 million for that. You know, and I would love to go up to $100,000 buy down costs. So all these projects, as you've heard me say before, are economic projects. They help offset the cost for the city and the taxpayers by generating revenue. So, you know, the downtown, I've always said, is an opportunity. It's an opportunity for us to capitalize on everything, jobs, training, you know, anything that we can do, and it's an income for us. With respect to McNabb, I know your opinions on that, and we've had conversations on that. McNabb is, if you look on the tax rolls, right, it's tax exempt. It's city-owned property. We're putting it in, you know, this much money to generate this economic engine that's tax exempt for the East. Who's going to benefit from that? It's everyone outside. This is the city. So when you say we're siphoning off money for just this project and just benefiting this, that's incorrect, because we're not even benefiting from it. It's for the city and other taxing agencies.
Mayor.
Very good.
Mr.
Commissioner
Chair.
Smith? Good for now? Okay. I had Commissioner Perkins, then I'll have Commissioner Fessick.
Yes, thank you. Just for the record, I was looking back at my calendar. On Northwest 6th Avenue, I drove around with Mr. Kissinger in 2021 when we were trying to decide on what improvements could be made on Northwest 6th Avenue leading into Blanche Ely High School. Also, the original substation that was on Martin Luther King Boulevard, where the Marquise Apartments are now, is, I don't know, do you know what year the old building was torn down? Right there where I call Pretty Corner?
Yeah, I don't remember, but.
Well, when it was torn down is when I started talking about, because Barry Moss was sitting here on the dais at that time, and I did not want to say no to the substation for Collier City, but I knew that I wanted another substation in my district, and that's when the talk started. And now we have the substation in Collier City, and I don't know whether Commissioner Smith knows it or not, but it's not being utilized. It's there. But I just wanted to clarify that for the record. The other thing is, when Ms. Suzette was talking about the substation, I know that when this city wants to do something, it's not hard to do, and if they want to move on it fast, they will do so if they're told to do that. So, yes, we've been back and forward with this, and at some points, years and years ago, it was in the budget. So it didn't just pop up all of a sudden now. So you all moved numbers and things around, you know, a lot, but it's been on there for at least 5-6 years or more, give or take. That's it. Thank you, Mayor.
Very good. Commissioner Fessick?
Thank you. Mr. Tran, I heard you say something about revitalizing areas, and specifically to the McNabb House or McNabb Park. There's two things that came to mind. You talked about removing slum and blight. The CRA has had a lease for the McNabb Park, which is a park, community park, since 2019. And since 2019, the CRA has also used the slum and blight within that park to justify the fact that they need to blow it up and put in a $27 million plus project. FPI, whatever the security systems that drive around and just call BSO, and then write down how many times they've made that phone call, it seems like it's an intense waste of our resources. When we could have actually spent the money we spent for them to drive around in circles and to hang out in the parking lot by the Intracoastal and just sit there for 45 minutes, which is hilarious because I've actually watched it happen. I've got it on video. And and just sit there and talk on their phone, walk around the car, and then just drive around in a circle and whatever. I feel like that could have been spent in adding BSO officers instead, because community policing could have actually been something that we put in our CRA plan to protect the areas, protect some things that need to happen in the Northwest. And those things could be the beautification project. That's one thing. Two, I said it before and I'm going to say it again. You mentioned that as McNabb Park is tax-free to residents. Yes, we don't pay tax on a community park. There is no reason our community park is supposed to generate insane amounts of revenue. We do not need to commercialize a community park because a community park is meant for the enjoyment of the residents in the areas that it serves. That is the community benefit to the residents. We pride ourselves on being so green and having all these parks. Great, let's have a park. Let's have a park. Let's have a beautiful park. And I'm not saying we can't make money off of a park by hosting great events that activate said park. We can cover the cost of parks. But there's this belief somehow, and I don't know if maybe it's just line of work, right? Maybe it's just because you're passionate about what you do, and good. I mean, you want that. We want that in staff. We want somebody who's passionate. But you have to understand that residents are also passionate too about not overdeveloping everything and not putting a business on everything. Sometimes they just want a park. Sometimes they just want green space. Sometimes, I believe there was a lady who came in here a couple meetings ago, and she talked about parks in District 2. And she said she just wanted kids to be able to have grass under their feet. We don't have a lot of grass left in Broward County, to be fair. That's why everybody's trying to go vertical and wider and bigger and everything else. So I'd just like to step it back for a second and make sure that we're all on the same page. Like, let's go back to compromise. Like, we've spent a lot of time here for an hour and a half, and I'm not pointing fingers. I think what I want to do is, let's just get back to the issue at hand, right? Let's get back to the compromise. We obviously have moaned, complained, vented, which has all been pretty good. If we are required to pass a budget, then we need to find out, what is it? How do we get from where we are now, which is clearly a 3-3, I think we're probably, from what I'm hearing, how do we get from there to where we need to be? Where are we going to find the ways that we can work together? Or can we find ways we can work together? So, and then, Mr. Tran, that's not meant for you to answer, I'm sorry. You're looking at me like, I don't know.
I do need to clarify the two things that you said.
Yeah, but I'm actually saying this to my colleagues, right? Look, I understand there's a lot of things that are happening here, but at the same time,
Just wait.
we can go back and forth all day, and we could, but I don't want to do that. I don't want to waste, let's not waste each other's time pointing fingers about projects and this and this and this. We have a budget, we have an agenda, we have this has been a meeting that's now been extended far beyond wherever it should have been. Let's get back to the basics. We obviously have stuff and concerns about what's in these budgets, and I definitely do. I'm not okay with the paperwork, I'm not okay with the wording, I'm not okay with the add-ons, because what I've learned is that everything that you say up here, they'll get a memo later, or they'll find a workaround, or there's some sort of keyword that was not used, and then, like I think Vice Mayor said, all of a sudden you get, at the next meeting, well, you have to approve this because this is this way. Or, for example, even the site plan at Planning and Zoning. It's a site plan, it had nothing to do with cash flow. And the site plan, there's like this gigantic, poster, blinking red light of everything was approved and vetted and fantastic. And it was just a picture that people approved. It was a picture and a drawing. It was architectural, pretty pictures. And they said, yeah, it looks great. Fine. Didn't have anything to do about how we're paying for it. Didn't mean that, and they were even told in the meeting, this has nothing to do about financing, you just have to approve the pictures. Paraphrasing. So, look, let's figure out what it is. Ms. McKenna, I would actually ask you, what is it, and Mr. Waters, we found the numbers, it's 1.6, right? What is it, just out of curiosity, that we could potentially do, knowing you've heard, and from a legal standpoint, you've heard everything that everybody said, and you've dealt with all of us for a while, and you know the CRA for everybody, Mr. Waters, I know that you are somewhat new to Pompano, but you have taken this on like a champion and in very short fashion and worked very hard with former staff to get to where we are with the city and the CRA budgets to do that very quickly. So what can we find as solutions? Let's just stop with everything else. Let's look at what are potential solutions that would knowingly find some common ground or some middle ground, and let's start to move this. Let's move the conversation into this zone. I want to find out if there is common ground, and if there is, great. Then we're great. If there isn't, then like, okay. But let's try to move it to that zone. So, Ms. McKenna, if you want to potentially start, I'm happy to listen to what you've got to say.
Let me take a shot. So I think what we start with is what we can't do. Okay, we're not going to be able to take the downtown project or the McNabb project out of the budget. You've got to amend your CRA plan. So that's the first thing. So what probably would be helpful to me and to Mr. Waters is if there is something attached to either project, a line item in the budget that you object to, that we can take a look at and say, is there something legally we can do with that particular line item? I don't know the answer to that, but for us to stay within our legal parameters, we are somewhat handcuffed by the requirement that you've got to amend your CRA plan. Okay?
I have a question.
So okay, go
I
ahead.
just have a question about that. So this is the second or third time I've heard this between 2 days ago and again today. That whatever we would have to do, we would have to first amend the CRA plan. So knowing that from a couple days ago and knowing that what we've heard 2 days ago and again today, what I mentioned was having staff at that point kind of move towards what suggestions would be based on what they heard at the meeting. What would it take? So we can't amend a CRA plan. Well, the CRA board and the city commission is here, whether it be notice or whatever, and understand we're in time frame. But knowing and hearing those things, if that is the path, then I'd like to try to find ways and solutions that we can get to what is the common ground without just saying you can't do that or you can't do that or you can't do that. I'd like to kind of come back and find out. Let's find the solution rather than the can't. Right? Let's try to see what can we do.
Let me offer an observation. I think the biggest challenge you are facing is that some of you believe that your residents object to the projects. Some of you believe that your residents support the projects. So you have a legitimate differing point of view, and we're in a situation where, based on prior decisions, you now have a CRA plan with these two projects that are in the format that they are in. I think my observation is, it is unlikely that at this moment in time there would be support for amending your CRA plan to eliminate those projects. I think that would probably not be a realistic expectation for this board to have. So it would be more fruitful, I think, to try and identify specifically in this budget at this moment in time, what line items can we work with to allow you to at least pass the budget? And then you just all have to get together and keep talking about how you're going to amend your CRA plan to achieve what it is that you want to achieve, if there's support for it. And that's really the challenge that you have, because it is fair for each of you to believe that you are doing what your constituents want you to do. And the fact that three say it's this and three say it's that, that doesn't make it right or wrong. It makes it what your particular representation is and what you believe. So I think we have to set that aside. I don't think you can solve that, okay? I think you have to set that aside and say, okay, given what the law requires, and the fact that you really are in a box. You really are in a box because the three of you that are really struggling to support this budget have inherited decisions that were made before you that you can't change today. That you're going to have to do the change at another time. So given that constraint, what can we identify in the budget that will raise your comfort level? The mayor has already said, you have complete control over these projects. It is in your control. And you are correct, Commissioner Fournier, that there are consequences for not doing the master infrastructure bond because we have a contract. We have a binding contract. That doesn't mean that you can't say in the future, I am okay with those consequences because I don't want to approve the bonds. That is your prerogative as an elected official. But I think what we have to do is specifically look at this budget and say, what can we move in this budget that will allow the six of you to do exactly what you did with the city budget and unanimously say, yeah, we want to do this for our city.
So, thank you. So I've heard a couple different things. I want to point out that we've been here for almost 2 hours, and we've seen memos posted, and we've seen some alternate wording posted, but we've not had the budget up here yet, so on the screen. So we have been here for a while, and all we've basically talked about is what we have to do. Yes, consequences, there's consequences to every action. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. I get that. This isn't about control, though. It's the consequences. It's about the decisions being made. And if we were to approve it as it is, the reality is then we would be essentially signing off on things that we don't believe our residents want. And so there has not been any change or any proposed change to the things that we've said. So we're exactly where we were 2 days ago, unfortunately, and that nothing has changed in the budget. Nothing has changed anywhere. And as far as inheritance, I kind of chuckled, but as far as inheritance, God, how many times has somebody inherited something, whether they've sort of gotten passed out, whether it be somebody's old clothes or a terrible green sofa. Sometimes you chuck stuff because it doesn't make sense to you or your life. Just because you inherit something doesn't mean it has value to you or your residents. And just because it was somebody's Aunt B's favorite green sofa doesn't mean that it's your favorite sofa or that it's going to be your kid's favorite sofa, right? So we have to assign value to what our residents want now, not what somebody wanted 10 years ago, 20 years ago, not somebody's science project that, award-winning, whatever. We need to focus on what the residents want today, how we're going to spend their money today, how we're not going to spend their money today and 30 years into the future. We have to be careful and be custodians of that. And by saying yes because we have to everything, that's not going to get us there. So I think we need to sort of step it back. And I understand that there's different constraints, but quite honestly, we've been trying. I've been trying, but I felt the collective up here. We have been trying since November of last year to get traction, to get conversations happening, to get to the point where we would not be in this point because we would already had the conversations happening. We would have already worked through some of the issues had we had the opportunity to do so. The lack of opportunity and the lack of discussion and the lack of leadership to bring us there is the problem. So here we are, we're here, we seem to be seemingly at an impasse, and the thing is that I feel like we're just going to go in circles, and we're going to feel strong-armed into making a decision, and then we're going to be, oh, well, it's going to be your fault if we're in whatever. We're not. at some point, you have to say, enough, and just throw your hands in the air. Thank you.
Very good. Ms. McKenna, do you want to have something else or not?
I was just going to say, I fully understand what you're communicating. Again, we have to deal with the fact that in order to achieve what I hear you very strongly saying is we have to amend the CRA plan. And the challenge you have is that some of you are not hearing from your residents that you want the plan changed. Some of you are hearing from your residents that you do want the plans changed. That's a conflict. But you have in front of you a budget that is lawful because it is following what the law requires for the budget. And so until you change the CRA plan, you can't change this budget other than, as I said earlier, all the new money that has not previously been affected in a prior year, you can talk about today. And we can put up on the screen what those dollars total. And as I said, if there is a line item relative to either the downtown or McNabb that doesn't fall into the category that we were talking about for the encumbrances, we can talk about that. But beyond that, you have to adopt this budget. I mean, it's really that simple. And then whatever happens after this budget is wide open. If you can persuade your colleagues that there is a real desire to change the projects, that's what the deliberative process is. But at this moment in time, that hasn't happened. They haven't had a groundswell of people coming in and saying to them, you've got to do this. So you have differing points of views that today cannot be resolved. And so you kind of have to put them aside and say, legally, today, what we got to do is adopt this budget. And then we'll figure out how else we can change the CRA plan, how we can change the projects. And I understand that means that, 3 of you are going to be disappointed because this budget is not what you want. But it's the lawful budget that is in front of you. And I urge you to just say, okay, we can't resolve the conflict today. And you can't. I mean, you really don't have a viable path to get everything that I've heard you say. The budget doesn't have anything to do with management. You have some real issues about management. Unfortunately, they can't be solved with the budget. And so these are all conversations that are going to happen after you adopt this budget. And you just keep working toward, solutions that you think are important that are unrelated to what we have to do as a CRA because of our CRA plan and because of the law.
Very good. I'll have Commissioner Perkins next, but Mr. Tran, did you want to add something? I kind of indicated to you to wait. I didn't know if you...
I just wanted to correct on the FPI. And before, the ECRA, we had FPI. They canceled, the security, and that's our innovative community policing. So they canceled the security contract, and within that time period, it was very noticeable of all the vagrancy and homelessness hanging out. So they wanted to bring it back. So just for fact, we did get rid of them. And there was a noticeable noticeable hanging out and loitering that they wanted us to bring it back. That's what I wanted to clarify.
Very good.
With respect to their phones, that's what they use to do their reports. So when you see them on their phones, they're not just on their phones, they do their reports on their phone.
Very good. So thank you. Have Commissioner Perkins next, then Commissioner Smith, then Vice Mayor. Commissioner Perkins?
Thank you, Mayor. I was listening to you when you were talking, and you said Claudia, how can we raise your comfort loan, how can we raise your comfort level? And to raise my comfort level is to have an addition, add an addition into the budget without all of these stipulations. And at that point, I'll be 100% voting for it. So when we get to that part, when we get to that point, I would just make a motion to add.
Can you identify what it is that you want to add? Because that would be helpful.
Okay, yeah, well, I want to add to the downtown project the educational component, the vocational training component, the college resource center, the sports hall of fame. I want all of that added in to the downtown project. Now, I know when I say that, you're gonna come with some kind of stipulations. You can't do this because of that. You can't do that, and if you do this, you gotta, so what is it? What comes with that?
That is certainly something that can happen. Here's the challenge, and I'll let Ms. Sybil jump in, but it's my understanding that the budget for that is somewhere around 9 million or 9 to 10 million for all of those things. Mm-hmm. If you recall, we brought forward an amendment to the master development agreement to include all of those things. The only thing that we didn't include was a separate, I think, a performing something. I don't remember what it was, but we brought forth we had an educational component, we had the Sports Hall of Fame, we had the Pioneers Monument, et cetera. We had all of that. And that can be, if your colleagues support that, that can be added to the master development agreement at the next CRA meeting without any difficulty, if you have support for that.
When you, excuse me, when you say add, it has to be a vote here on the dais?
Yeah, your colleagues have to agree with you that those items be added, okay? In other words, we take the First Amendment to the master development agreement and we bring that forward. What I think we have to talk about this morning, though, is where the funding would come from. And I don't know if there is sufficient money in this budget, and, certainly Nguyen or Kim can tell you, but we can add them to the project without any difficulty. The issue will be, where will the funding come from? And if we have the funding, then you get, that is something that we can certainly accomplish.
Yeah. The right thing to do, and I'm sure this was talked about 9, 10, 11, 12 years ago, was to bring the district commissioner to the table when all of this was being put in place. That would have been the right thing to do, but it was not done that way. So it was brought to me as a complete project, and I had to somewhat push into this project what is possibly what we need or what we want from this project from the Northwest. And I think that's the right thing to do. If you're going into anyone's district to do anything, I think the district commissioners should be involved and at the table. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have that opportunity. But even as of yesterday, I got a call to say, well, we having a meeting about the design for the new city hall. Mm-hmm. Okay. We're moving forward. But no one took the time at the beginning of this project. And I know, everybody say this project been going on for 30 years. I mean, really it was just buying land for so many years. That's all that was. But the actual plan of putting what was going to be developed on that land, I would be really okay with this. I really don't have a problem with the project itself. I just wanted some things inserted in this project that the Northwest can benefit from and be a part of. Because the way it's designed now, it's like a little island. It's in the Northwest, but it doesn't bring the Northwest into it to be a part of it. It's like a separate island.
So, Commissioner, I will commit to you that Ms. Sybil and I will sit with you immediately. Actually, it has to be after the 22nd because when this meeting is over, my husband and I are driving to New Jersey to see my grandchildren. But I'll be back on the 22nd, and I commit to you, Ms. Sybil and I will sit down with you. We will take that list and we will prepare an amendment to bring to your colleagues.
The master developers.
To the master, yeah, absolutely. They had already said, when we brought the First Amendment the last time, they had already said they supported amending the Master Development Agreement. But I am committing to you, I personally am committing to you that I will meet with you next week with Ms. Sybil. We will craft that document. We'll make sure that it looks the way it's important to you to support. And then we will bring it at the next CRA meeting. Ideally, your colleagues will support what it is that goes into that amendment. I know there were some concerns about some of the items, and maybe you all can have a conversation about that. Between now and then, we have a special meeting or at the workshop, perhaps. But I am committing to you. I will help you get those things for your community legally.
Okay, the problem is you don't vote. So what if the vote is 3-3, it fails?
Well, I know if maybe your colleagues would like to share with you this morning any concerns they have about the list of things that you want. Maybe we could go through that list and your colleagues could share with you whether or not they support it. I thought I heard at the meeting when we brought the First Amendment that you had support from Commissioner Smith, Mayor Hardin, Commissioner Segerson-Eaton, and that they were prepared to support the First Amendment. I don't know if that has changed, and they can certainly speak, but it's my belief that you have the support for bringing that forward, perhaps with some tweaking, and I don't know what the tweaking would be, but I want to make clear I am committed to helping you legally get that in front of your colleagues in a way that they can achieve that for you.
Okay, so what you're saying is that it cannot be these projects I just read, they cannot be inserted into the budget, but it has to be under the master developers agreement. Is that correct?
Ms. Sybil's going to
Commissioner
respond.
Smith had her hand raised, if I can jump in. So I'm just going to back up a minute and kind of how we got to the list. And,
Yes,
and
I
there were
do.
different iterations, and
of
we
course.
brought it forward. And, well, we all know what happened at the meeting. We won't go there again. But just to clarify, one of the things, and I don't want anybody to roll their eyes because I'm just going to speak again.
Go ahead.
I feel, the word trust is used a lot, right? And I get it. I think there's a feeling of no trust on both sides, right? And that's kind of where we're at today. And it makes it difficult to kind of sit down across the table and to continue to have conversations. I really think we need to hit the reset button. One of the things that I've talked about is, and that's my job. My job is to always find the most cost-effective way to bring things to this commission as a recommendation. And I've talked about the public financing, and those up here may roll their eyes. Nobody wants to hear about the public versus private again. It's been out there, it's gone on and on. My job is to bring something that's the most cost effective. So I brought a recommendation for public financing because I said I wanted to save more money. And whether that's 100 million or 60 million or 50 million or 105 million, it's a savings. Now, I heard the community loud and clear when we went out to the roundtables. I've heard you, Commissioner Perkins, meeting after meeting over the last couple of months having great concern that we're developing just this core area of the downtown, right? And it's like an island to you. And your basic concern is, what about the community outside of the area?
Yes.
And Ms. McKenna talks about the legal, because trust me, no offense to the lawyers. You know, I go to the lawyers a lot, by the way. I talk to her a lot. I talk to Mark a lot. I talk to James a lot, because I'm legitimately trying to find ways on how we can spend, whether it's CRA money, and we all agree, right? They can use money for certain things. Actually, they can do more than we can in terms of individual assistance. Like, the city can't use taxpayer dollars for down payment assistance. We do it through Miriam's programs, right? Through the housing department, because those are grant funds, and that's completely different than general taxpayer dollars. The CRA, on the other hand, I had a conversation with Ms. McKenna, and we had to get there together, and I said, why can't we use, we started with rental assistance, and she said, no, we can't do that. And I said, well, what about down payment assistance? And we had an affordability discussion, and I said, well, affordability to me, we all know the cost of housing is very expensive. It just is. It's the market, it drives it, et cetera. And just bear with me, I'm going off on a tangent a bit. I tend to ramble, so you may have to cut me off at some point. But I said, yeah, if a house out there is $400,000, why can't we figure out a program that the CRA can fund to provide down payment assistance, right? And, $60,000 may not be enough. It might have to be $100,000. And let's try to work on that program. So that's why Nguyen put $1 million in his budget this year. Now, what we talked about, too, is if we can have additional savings on this project to create additional surplus dollars, let's try to continue to develop that program. A lot of times I hit roadblocks because legally I'm told I can't do that. Scholarships for people to go to Atlantic Vocation for a trade, or whatever. That gets a little touchy. So that I have to work with nonprofit partners, right? I have to try to find grant money, which isn't easy, right? Federal and state, I know there's money coming down from DOL, right? From Department of Labor right now for certain things. They're focused on certain industries. They're focused on AI, technology, shipping, these things. But that money doesn't come directly to us as a city, right? It stays at the workforce agency level. So now we have to figure out, okay, it's up there. How do we shake that tree and get it down here so that we can pay for scholarships for kids coming out of high school who want a different path, or for people in the community who want to be upskilled or reskilled to increase their income? Because I fully believe that we can build as much affordable housing as we want, but affordable housing 10 years ago, it's not the same today. No different than what it costs to rent a 2-bedroom apartment. It's very expensive. And the problem with housing, too, is you have other expenses to pile on, right, that we don't control. Your homeowner's insurance, right? That's a big one. That needs to be regulated. That needs more attention at the state level. I mean, I think every homeowner in this city agrees to that. Whether you live in this city or any city in Broward County, it's a problem, right? When I get my insurance bill just like everybody every year, and I'm stuck because there are only so many insurers out there. So I'm saying all that because, yeah, let's all try to work together, but at all levels of government, because affordability for residents, I agree, they do get a tax bill from us, and we control that tax bill. But they also get tax bills from other entities on their tax bill. And a lot of costs that they're feeling, whether it's food or homeowners insurance or otherwise, it's not things that we control, but it's things that we can certainly throw our hat in the ring with our lobbyists to try to effect change. And let's just work together and do that. So, I mean, I say all that because, yes, we've had conversations. I'm willing to sit down again. And Ms. McKenna does have to be at the table because I do have to go to the lawyers. Okay. Because I can't get past them otherwise, right? If I bring it here, Mr. Berman's going to raise his hand and be like, wait a minute, what are you doing? You can't do that,
I know that we've been back and forward with this for a while. Not much has changed, and I just don't seem to be getting anywhere with it. And, of course, this was put together, a year and a half ago or so? So we're still there. So, Ms. McKenna, if you could just sit down with
Absolutely.
your media after you return.
Yep. We'll pull out our calendars, you, me, and Ms. Sybil, after we finish with this meeting, and we'll set a time for next week. And I think it would be helpful to go ahead and ask your colleagues today if they are open to letting us bring back the amendment, and then we're going to have to brainstorm about how we're going to fund it, because obviously, I don't know whether or not there's room. Nguyen can possibly respond. I don't know how much money we have in this budget that we could shift over to that with your colleagues. Obviously, we've got new TIF in the budget. They've earmarked it for different things, but that's a conversation you all could have this morning about whether or not for the Northwest budget, you would be willing to shift some dollars over into the downtown area to fund some of the things that are on the First Amendment list.
Please, no applause. Thank you. Mr. Tran,
So
you want to
you've
respond?
heard us before, in this budget, there's a $64.5 million infrastructure bond. You know, and I know Suzette said maybe a maximum of 75. Depending upon our debt service coverage and stuff, we do have funding for the infrastructure part to go up to these pads. So that part of it, we've, you know, anticipated that any infrastructure costs, any pre-development costs related to infrastructure, we pick up as a CRA. The city is more on the vertical side. So, yeah, I mean, there's a commitment from us to get this started, and it always starts with infrastructure.
Okay.
That's roadways, utilities, undergrounding, everything like that.
It's-
The underground, we spend so much money underground, and we want to see a lot more above ground. You know, we just.
We hear you.
Okay, so. Well, I don't think that my colleagues probably have enough information to possibly discuss it at this point. You would probably need something to read over before the meeting or whatever to kind of understand where I'm going with this so that you could better discuss it, I'm thinking. So maybe I'll just hold off and wait. I'm looking at everybody to see what everybody's face is saying. I'll hold off and wait until I can get something written and given to you so that you can take a look at it and give your opinion on it once you've read it.
Can I make a suggestion? So I was just,
Ms.
sorry.
Sybil?
Yes. So I was just talking to Newen, you know, we had some down payment assistance in the 2027 column. I mean, if you're willing to work with me on the substation acquisition line, would you be open to bumping some of that down payment assistance money? And it has to be used in the Northwest, because this is the Northwest that we're talking about, into the 26 column. If we reduce that land acquisition, but I go back to the playing board and try to find money to bump that back up. Remember, we still have to negotiate with the owner, right? They still
Right.
have to agree, they're not being reasonable.
Right.
And the construction money is in, Mr. Waters, where's the construction money for the substation? What year in the CIP? Do you recall?
Design is in fiscal '27, and then construction is in '28.
Okay, so we have a little time. So I'm trying to, I get it, there's a list, there's a bigger list, but I'm trying to get that assistance out to the community sooner, even though we under down payment, because I've heard you loud and clear. We can work with the CRA staff to build that program. That program would come back to the commission for consideration and approval and how it would work and be effective. Would there be an agreement among you all to amend the Northwest plan to shift the money between the substation and that down payment assistance line? Will that give you some comfort?
That's workable.
Something?
Yeah,
Start.
That's workable. That assistance is needed. Now, my next,
I'll let Newen suggest where to move from, because he's
okay.
explaining other
So
things.
my last concern, and it's a little up and down thing in my district, but my last concern is the existing EPAT Larkin Center. So we've heard some want to remove it and some want to rebuild. I am going to continue to stand with EPAT Larkin's wife, that she would like for it to remain. However, to renovate it, I don't even think there was even $1 million to renovate it that I saw on the list a while back. Do you remember that?
I think it was up to 1.5
It was
million.
1.5.
My recollection.
It was 1.5 to renovate.
So, and that was because of Dr. Good observation.
Right.
Okay.
I think she's here.
I just really think we really don't know how much money needs to be spent there. I just don't think we should just limit it to 1.5. And the other issue I had was in the language, it was written to, okay, the building will exist there now, but in the future, it's coming down. Is that is the way the language is written?
And I think it left the money. It left the money in the budget for the civic buildings. That's what it did.
Yeah.
To give you the opportunity to still vet it with the community. So the money was still left in there, and it was still in the MDA to replace it.
Yeah, and there's
So, I mean, if we're going to meet next week, let's continue. I don't think we're going to have an answer for that because I'd bring Tammy back to the table. Let's continue to have those discussions about the Pat Larkin Center.
Yeah,
as
and
part of
there's
that meeting.
there's no legal requirement that the building come down. There's not a provision that says it's going to be taken down.
I think one of the concerns are too with a lot of residents. Of course, I have a breakfast the first Saturday of every month at the Ally Building, and every breakfast I ask over and over, raise your hand if you want to see the building come down and be rebuilt, and it's always the same. No, we would like the building to remain. And my concern with that is a lot of people feel whenever something is built in the Northwest, an exception to the Hive, that was done with their heart, soul, and mind in that. That was done really nice. But the 731 building on Martin Luther King, it's just wasn't done right from the beginning. It's just something there to say we gave you something. And the same thing with the Senior Activity Center. The way it was built, it was just not a lot put into it to make it what it is. Now, when I walk into that Charlotte Burry Center, that is a nice center. Somebody put their hard time earned money into that center. So I think that was one of the reasons the people in the community were not impressed when they saw the different photos of how the new E. Pat Larkin's building would look. Because really all the focus is on the city hall. And I can say that the new building, the Hive, Earl and Ty, and they did a wonderful job on that. I mean, that is top of the line for District 4. And I think you, Ed, or somebody made mention of the Loveland Theater. So we're working on that for the Hive. But that is my concern, the E. Pat Larkin's building, and of course, some of these items I like to see incorporated into the new downtown.
Can I address that?
Yes, go
So, and I get that. We have not issued a solicitation for the Larkin Center on purpose because obviously it's a very controversial project. People
Yes,
are on
it
both
is.
sides of the aisle. Some want new, some want in place, some want in a different location.
Right.
So we did not issue a solicitation for an architect to design it. So what was presented in the community was just ideas, just to get the conversation going. I'm not an architect. I was not involved in designing the Burry Center or the Larkin Center or the Hive. The Hive is beautiful. I saw it online. I know we had the grand,
Yes, very nice,
grand
very
opening,
nice.
this past weekend. So I was not involved in any of that. The only thing I can commit to, and we may not agree all the time, and I'll tell you straight to your face, Beverly, we can't do that. Whether it's because the lawyers say we can't do it, or I don't know, I'll tell you, I'm always going to tell you why. I'm not going to say, we can't do that, Beverly, whatever. You know, it's my way or the highway. I'm always
The city
going
of
to tell
Pompano,
you.
we can do all things.
No, well, I wish. I have lawyers that tell me otherwise a lot of times. But my point is that, Mark's standing up. My point is that in designing the Larkin Center, I can work closely with the community. I'd like to do it. I'm out there. I heard a lot in the community. I know you feel I haven't been out there. I'm out there now. I'm trying to listen. I'm trying to find avenues to get things done legally, as Claudia points out. But, I get that there's a mistrust in the community, that there won't be input, that we're going to promise a bag of goods and what this center is going to look like, and then we're going to build a cookie-cutter box that nobody likes. We certainly have a budget, so we have to work within it, and that'll always be, unless the commission decides, you know what, the budget's 10.3, let's add 900,000 to it to make it 11 or 12. That's certainly at your discretion. We would have to figure out how to do that. But my point is that if I can be that mediator, that's the word of the week
Okay.
to try to bridge that gap, as long as I feel like on both sides, right, there's that trust and that continued conversation and everybody's being sincere with that conversation, I'm all in.
Okay.
Right? I'm a hard worker. I'm gonna put in the time and the effort to get it done.
Okay.
And Commissioner,
Well, you know,
I'm going to be right there with Ms. Sybil, figuring out how we do it legally so that we can accomplish those objectives.
Okay. Well, I'm really open to the EPAT Larkin Center. However, like I said, I would like to respect the wife's wishes, but if she should change her mind, I'll go with that. Now, we talk on a regular basis, usually every other Saturday or whatever, she just pops up at my house. We just chit-chat. But I want to do what majority of the residents would want. So I will continue to listen. I will continue to ask questions, and see where we go from there. I'm open. It's just trying to do the right thing for the people and make sure everybody is happy. Of course, some of the people happy anyway. All right, that's it. That's all I have.
Very good. I've got Commissioner Smith.
Commissioner Perkins, I too like those amenities that you mentioned, the education component, the sports, the history, and if we can find the funding for that, I'm saying that you have my support.
Please, no applause.
Thank you. I'm happy to hear that. And I will get the information to everybody, of course, so they'll have it to read ahead of time.
Good, Commissioner Smith? Very good. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Commissioner.
No Vice Mayor? Okay. Further discussion? Well, should we reopen or?
Reopen item 3 and 4 and go ahead and, see where we stand.
Before we do that, should we have, why don't we, Ms. Vasquez, can you put up on the screen our budget for the Northwest and the East, and just show us, Ms. McKenna talked about the new money. New money, strictly new money. We can dabble with new money if we so choose. That's my understanding.
That's correct. If it has not previously been appropriated to a project, then you can.
But with the new money though, if there's not something in our CRA plan identified.
Well, that is certainly part of, what you would have to look at. It's got to be in the plan, but you have a lot in your plan.
Okay. Very good. So let's look at the new money in our budgets.
For example, we have a lot of infrastructure provisions in the plan for things like streetscapes and, utilities, drainage, all of the things that go into improving neighborhood areas, that type of thing. Those are eligible activities, and we have that in our plan very clearly.
Very good. All right. Starting with the East, where's the new money?
Okay. Kimberly Vasquez, CRA Project Manager. I'll start with the East. We do have tax increment coming in, anticipated coming in at 7.8 million. I just want to reflect that. So that's your new TIF coming in. In McNabb, you do see that you have a tax increment revenue, which would be that actual new TIF of a little over 2 million. The carry forward fund balance is already delegated to the McNabb project, and that would be carried forward from current fiscal year into next. So you do have 2 million within your McNabb project.
And that could be moved.
Okay.
Could be moved somewhere else.
Any question, Vice Mayor?
Is it possible to take, can you go back, Ms. Vasquez, to the 7, keep going back.
You want to go back?
Just to the 7.8, which has not been allocated and is allocated in this budget. Is it possible to take that and just call it in project escrow for now, and then have it approved as we go throughout the year or in a subsequent meeting? That's what I'm asking Ms. McKenna.
I believe so. I mean, I'll leave it to our budget director to say whether or not that's something you can do from a budgeting standpoint. But
So the
in
7.8
terms of the
less whatever he
statute-
needs for the budget.
In terms of the statute, certainly. It's
Okay.
not allocated to a project. We haven't appropriated it to a project. So I think you could create a new category called project contingency or
escrow,
project
yeah.
reserve, project escrow, yes.
I just want to caution that on that 7.8 million, some of that has to go to allocation for administrative and operations cost of the CRA.
Okay.
Right, and that's what we're talking about, less what
Yeah.
less what Mr. Waters needs, those transfers to the city and the operational component of it.
Correct.
So what is that number?
Well, if you see at the operations, you see it a little over 2 million as part of your uses. That includes the staff, the obligation that we have to the mailer for that reimbursement.
And the debt service, because we have to service our debt.
That's all included, and the debt service, that's right.
Okay, so the 7.8 net of the 2.6 or 4.6 or 7 million here is what?
Well, I want to just state for the record that that 2.5 million is inclusive of new debt service, so
Okay.
if we're not issuing debt, we would exclude that out.
Okay, so whatever that, you understand what I'm getting at, what the number is of our existing debt obligations,
Right.
less the operations, whatever that number is, I would like to put in an
Project
account that's,
escrow.
yeah, project escrow that has to be spent or allocated throughout the year at our, this board's discretion.
We know that it is at least 2 million, that line item in McNabb, right, Kim?
Correct.
I'm sure we can figure.
And then it will be some number above that, less, and I don't know exactly how these numbers work.
Each one of the slides show what the funding mechanism is used to offset the cost within the budget. So when I go through I think we should address it as we go through the slides.
Okay.
Would be my recommendation.
We have we start with 7,843,755, right? Okay. Minus 2. Do we take out the operations now, or you have that on another slide?
I would take it out now.
Okay,
That
and
is
then the
total
projects.
Operations
Okay.
Now,
cost.
is the operations,
Operations
it's
and
not-
your current debt service.
Okay.
Yeah, the one-
I don't know what the current debt service is because
1,260,000.
What is it?
1,260,900.
1.3.
Okay, so we're at about 5 million. So we have 4.498 million. So let's see if we can find about that as we go through the slides. So
The 375,000, you want to take out the cost of issuance for the new bond?
yeah,
So
How much is that?
75,000.
so I'm adding that back though.
You're starting with the 7 and backing out operations, then the debt service for the current bonds, and
Right.
the 375. I mean, I have a number, I don't know if I.
Okay,
I'm a-
yeah.
Yeah, if you want to start from the top. So I have the 7,843,755, right? That's the
Right.
top number. Then we're backing out the 2,144,004, right? Is that, you following that one so far? That's just the operations.
2084421.
Wait, what column are we in?
I'm looking at the slide.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm just saying we're looking at different. Are you looking at this?
That would help. I'm in the Northwest. Sorry about that. I'm still on Beverly's list. Oh, sorry. You're right. 2084421. So we'll start with that. And then let's see. You have your 2 bonds.
But I just want the
And
existing
then
bond. That's why I don't think I need to back out the 375. I just need to know what the
You
existing
want the
debt is.
existing bonds? So there are
Yes.
2 numbers. There's the 701, 790.
701, 790,
Right. And then we're going to add it to the 397, 420 because they're 2 series bonds.
397, 420.
Yes.
Okay. So 7843755.
That.
Someone's got to have a better calculator than I do, but 7843755. 20844421
Yeah.
minus 701, 790 minus 397, 420. So 4.6 million is about what we're looking for as we go through this. That's allocated to either consultants or projects or whatever else throughout. So can we flip through it and see if we can find some of that or most of it?
Yeah.
There's your 2,030,000 $30,081 of new tax increment revenue. We'll take
Back
that
there.
out.
Okay.
This is tax increment revenue. This is for your incentive programs and also our dissemination of information.
Okay. So that's 350?
350,000, yes.
Okay.
This is also tax increment revenue for FPI, Roving Ambassador Security Services.
Okay.
It's 106.
160?
Yes. Tax increment revenue for property acquisition of $928,561.
Okay.
And then professional services at $175,000. That's your tax increment revenue coming in.
Let me see if it adds up. Is there some reserve or anything else?
Yes, there is a reserve.
So I still have about $1 million.
Actually, that debt service that I showed is 1.22 million, it's 1,250,000. That's actually in a reserve right now. So that would be the new allocation of funding into next year's budget.
Okay. So I guess I'm just going to assume it's about $4.5 million based on this.
Yes.
So I guess I would propose that we take that $4.5 million of new TIF money and put it in a different line item that says, project or escrow. And we figure out how to allocate that either at a subsequent meeting or throughout the year to projects.
So that would be a motion to amend the budget.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the East CRA budget to take the $4.5 million of new TIF revenue and put it into a
Project escrow.
project escrow line.
Second.
Moved and seconded for taking $4.5 million of new TIF revenue and putting in a separate account, a new separate account, to retain it.
I want to be clear on my motion. It's about 4.5, but it's all of these line items added up that we just added up.
Right.
Plus,
So is the motion to approve the budget with this amendment?
I'm just making this amendment right now. I mean, obviously, it's in the effort to getting us to a place where we approve the budget, but
Okay.
It's good, Claudia.
let's walk before we run.
Okay. Well, okay. So there's been a motion to take about $4.5 million of new TIF.
Can I clarify it? So I'm going to make the motion to take, I'm going to amend it to say not 4.5 or about 4.5 because I think that's a little vague. But so whatever the difference in new TIF revenue is, less our operations and existing debt service.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to, you got it, Ms. McKenna?
I have, yes.
So to come up with that number. So zeroing out all those things that Ms. Vasquez went through, is that correct?
That is correct, but I just want to caution and to just put this out here. That means you would have no funding to do incentives, no funding for security, no funding for contracted and professional services. We would have no funding for that.
So just so I'm clear, we would have funding, it's just sitting in an escrow account and we would have to allocate that as it came up. Right? And we do have the money still, it's just sitting in escrow waiting for us to decide how we're going to spend it. So yes, it might create some situations in the near term where we are, it's not the catastrophic Armageddon list.
Let's hear from Ms. McKenna.
Can I just clarify that for that particular line item, where we have existing contract obligations, can we deduct that from that number because we have contracts that we have to pay?
No. They can come to us and have it.
Put it on.
There's not that many contracts in the CRA. There are some. We've got FPI, we have RMA, we've got some consulting contracts, we've got some other contracts, but we're not allocating this new money to anything until it comes back to us.
Kim, do we have a line item for the existing contracts? How are we paying, from what line are we paying the existing contracts?
Currently in our budget, we do have some consultants that are paid out of the professional service line item, which is what you're looking at on the screen now. FPI is also paid out of a different line item that's dedicated just for security services. We have various vendors that we utilize. That comes out of really our maintenance and falls under operations. So this is specific to consultants and the one line item.
Consultants with existing contracts or future consultants that you're going to hire?
It would be both.
Okay. So, Commissioner, for contracts that are existing, what did you envision that would look like? That when a bill comes due, it would be presented to you?
Yes?
Okay. So it's been moved and seconded, a motion. I've got discussion on the motion. Commissioner Fesick.
So I actually like this idea, and, but my other concern is, I'd like to, is it possible, Ms. McKenna, going back to this bond, that I know the bonds will come to us separately, but I'd like to, is there a way to delay even that being part of the budget, this $18 million that we don't have anyway?
No, because it's a carry forward from previous years, so it's going to stay in.
Bond is not.
Yeah, the bond is. Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's been there for a while.
No, I meant the
But
new one for McNabb is what I'm talking about.
It's not a new one. It's not a new one. It has been, that debt service has been appropriated. But as the mayor has emphasized and I have said, that does not mean that those bonds are going to get issued. It's, it's a placeholder that has been there for a while now. It's an appropriation. And, so that's going to stay, but it's not going to be expended until you approve issuance of the bonds.
May I?
Civil?
So, going back to my finance director hat, we do have certain laws that we have to follow to pay bills, right? We have Prompt Payment Act. It's 45 days. I wouldn't say I'd love to wait 45 days. We're pretty timely in paying our bills. So we do, especially a lot of the smaller vendors, they do expect like a quick turnaround for them to make their payroll. So I do want to caution you, whether it's FPI or some of the other smaller vendors, they have pest control, things like that. It just depends on when you're going to meet. So that would be my only caution. If something that already has a contract that we're being invoiced on the regular, and there's an issue where we get a bill and now we have to wait for the next agenda to put it on for this commission to approve that invoice for payment, that could cause problems. That would be my only caution on existing those smaller contracts.
Commissioner Fesick, you've still got the floor. You're done, Vice Mayor?
Right, so I can understand, like I said, in the short term, how this is going to make some extra work, and we're gonna have to stay on top of things. I mean, the goal would obviously be to come to some consensus relatively quickly on how to allocate that money so that we don't have to do that all year long, right? So hopefully we can agree, okay, these are the contracts, go ahead and pay them. But this is what I'm doing now is coming up with a way to get us through this. And then we will have to reconvene and figure out how we're going to spend this year's TIF money.
Okay, so if we have an invoice due October 5th or 16th, and we haven't resolved that, I'm just trying to get the bills paid so that we don't have these, especially these small vendors. Trust me, I know, especially through the housing department. We get the calls, they can't make payroll, whatever it is. I'm just saying it can happen because I've been there. So I'm just trying to make a reasonable compromise. And maybe they need to list out what the contracts are that we're talking about that exist in that line item in particular. I know FPI is one because that's what they talk about. I think they have a pest control. So anyway, I see Claudia waving.
I have a suggestion. For the short term, and I'd like to recommend that you use a vehicle we call a non-response memo, so that, let's just say, for example, there are 3 invoices that have to be paid by October 5th. Suzette or Newen or somebody will send a memo to the members of the commission saying we have invoices to pay ... and ... If we do not have an objection of more than 3 of you, well, okay, but one is not the board. If, you know, if there is not an objection to the payment, we will go ahead and pay. But it really has to be the majority of you object.
Right. Well, what if someone, you know, doesn't, I don't know, open the email in a timely manner? Because not everyone does that. So I don't know.
I'm trying.
I like the spirit of it, but
I'm trying to get us past just this initial. We're just talking about the month of October. You're going to meet and figure out how to do the rest of them between now and November. But
okay, so we can use. I'm fine using that mechanism till November 1st.
Suzette, does that work to cover letting you pay the bills that are going to come due?
I hope so. I think so. I think so. It should be. I don't know what's in the hopper and timing. I'm just stating that would be my concern, is just making sure that whatever we agree to here doesn't hold up getting small businesses paid.
I'm just trying to get us through that initial,
Right.
45-day
And I really have to
payment.
defer to them because they're day to day. The prompt payment popped in my head and I just wanted to, but certainly they know their vendors, they know the timing. If we feel like that would work, then looking to Kim.
And that memo would attach the invoice. It would show you what the services, it would be a regular how we, they review invoices before they pay them. So it would be, giving you the opportunity to do that.
Can I ask a question, Vice Mayor? Is it your intent that these bills that we get be approved by us or just reviewed by us? I mean, it's because if a bill comes before us, what are we doing? Are we, Ms. McKeon?
I just realized for all of the bills that are coming due in October that were for services rendered in this fiscal year, they're already going to be paid out of this budget. So it's going to be new things that come forward. I don't think we're going to have to worry about your concerns, Suzette, but we will have to have a conversation at the October meeting about how you're going to
Allocate.
For the November.
allocate for November, because you will have bills coming due then.
Sure. So this is the way to get us forward through today.
I get it.
But also get us to a point in October when we can discuss how to spend this year's TIF.
Yeah.
But my question is very specific. These bills that we're talking about, that Suzette's worried about, and is it your intention that we are the yes or no as far as paying these bills?
No, my intention is in October we meet and we come up with a budget for this TIF money for the year so we can operate. And Ms. McKenna just clarified that any bill that comes due before our October meeting would have been out of this prior fiscal year anyway, so we don't need that. It's not a concern.
But my question is going.
I just answered your question. If it's not sufficient, then I don't know what else to say.
My question is going forward.
I just answered that my intent is we come back in October and come up with a budget for the TIF money so that we can then operate for the year. Is that not clear?
And
Ms. McKenna, can you, I think you understand what I'm saying. Can you please clarify? Because my wording is clearly not landing.
Let me build on the question. Is it, do you want staff to come back with, for example, the consultant contracts that are existing? What information will you want for an October discussion? I think what I heard you saying is that once you've established how the money is going to be spent in October, then you're not going to see the bills on a monthly basis.
Correct. If we come back in October and we take this $4.5 million and say, okay, we're going to put $1 million of it towards this, we're going to put $1 million towards this, then we're done. Then we have a budget and we're done.
Right.
Are we discussing the motion?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
This is discussing the motion to take. Ms. McKenna's got it.
I don't think it's that complicated. It's just taking the new TIF revenue that Ms. McKenna said we are allocating in this budget year. We're netting out all of our obligations to keep this, to pay for to make the city budget work, to pay our debt, to do, so that we avoid Armageddon. And we're kicking the can down the road to give us to our October meeting to, as a board, decide how to allocate that remaining TIF funding this year so the CRA can operate.
And it would be in the form of a budget amendment, basically. We would be, we're gonna move the new TIF out of where it is into a line called Project Escrow. And then sometime subsequent, and ideally in the perfect world, it's gonna be October, we're gonna do a budget amendment that then takes that 4.5 and says, we're putting some here, we're putting some there.
Yes.
And so as a practical matter, at this moment in time, no bills are, no bills are gonna come to you at this moment in time. Unless somehow in October, that's how you decide you want some portion of the 4.5 to be handled.
Or we don't resolve it.
Or yeah.
But for now, we don't need any of these other mechanisms. We just need to meet in October and figure out how to allocate the East TIF funding for this year.
Gotcha. Further discussion on the motion? Commissioner Smith.
So, what we're discussing with the projects and commitments we have is that line item of the 175,000. Are those the commitments that we have for?
Can you go back to Kim, can you go back to the?
For consultants and already budgeted for FPI and?
So it's.
Our anticipated tax increment revenue is coming in this fiscal year is 7.8 million.
Correct.
We're eliminating out the operations cost as well as the current debt service that we have to pay for the 2013 A and B bond series.
Got it.
Okay, so we have 2 million in infrastructure improvements for McNabb. That's new TIF coming in. This is also new TIF coming in, 350,000 for initiatives such as the programs and dissemination of information. So I think what we're saying is any revenue outside of that operations, et cetera, is going to go down into like an escrow reserve account. We'll come back to you in October and then allocate it to specific line items in the budget.
So you'll come back in October and make recommendations of how to budget the project escrow funds.
Correct.
Because we're not qualified to tell you how to budget those. You guys are the experts with that. So what is our objective with coming back and telling CRA how to budget the funds that we're now placing in a project escrow? That's my question back to the team.
Very good. I've got a Vice Mayor.
Commissioner Smith, I wouldn't see that. It is our job as this board to set policy, and the biggest way you set policy is where you direct money and funding. So I do think that provides the opportunity for us to take this TIF money and set policy with where we want it spent over the next year. So I mean, you may not have any views on that, but I probably do, and perhaps the other commissioner who represents the East CRA does. So ideally, we'd work together with the CRA to meet their needs, but also ensure that our policy goals are reflected in the budget this year.
And at that meeting, we have this in the funds, 4.5 million to set for your policy goals based upon the recommendation of the CRA, because they know how it needs to be run. And then we're still at the same situation of a 3-3 when we come to that. So what does this actually accomplish, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Go ahead, Vice. I'll let you.
I mean, you just laid out the problem here. You just said the problem. We could just leave right now then, because we are trying to compromise and have some control over how the future money is spent here. And you just projected that in October, you're not going to be willing to look at this and compromise and think through it or listen to us, because you just said we're going to be at 3-3 again. The implication of that is the exact problem here. We have been asking for compromise. We've been trying here. And you just said that there's no point because you know where you're going to be in October no matter what.
I'm just saying, when we get to that situation, when we get to that situation,
Then we have to compromise. That is the point.
I have a question, Mayor.
Very good. Commissioner Seegerson, and then Commissioner Fessick.
Wait from Armageddon.
Okay, thank you. So, okay,
But if no one else wants to.
is some of this revenue going to go towards our consultants, for example? We have consultants, and I like having consultants because I'm not an expert in redevelopment, and I like having consultants. So I want to know whether our legal team is whether we're going to have a legal team. Are these folks, these services paid for out of those funds, or is there a particular? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Is this just a backdoor way?
Can I
To
clarify?
fire
Can I clarify?
RMA?
I know exactly what you're saying.
Okay, wait,
You said
Vice
it's all about RMA.
Mayor? Vice
Oh,
Mayor?
yeah, it is, because you tried to
Commissioner
fire him a
Seegerson,
number of times.
Commissioner Seegerson, Ms.
That's a
Vasquez.
question I have, and I'd like an answer. to it.
Vasquez
Thank you.
she wants to address your question. Go ahead, Ms. Vasquez.
What you're seeing on the screen right now addresses one line item in our budget for consultants that we use that are outside of a project or any additional, it could be an architect, it could be an engineer, it's RMA. We have a property manager.
175,000, that's what you're talking about, that number, or the
The
170?
year, and just to be clear, we have cut back on this line item in the East budget. We have other lines in our budget. Ms. McKenna is paid out of special legal services and falls under our operations. This is just consultant-based line item in the budget. We do
How is
have
RMA
other
paid?
vendors that we use, and they're paid out of, we have a maintenance line item in our budget, and we pay them out of the maintenance line item in the budget.
Okay, and how was RMA paid?
They're paid out of the consultant and professional services because they do multiple things within each district, and we can't have them specific to a project. So they are a vendor that works for us.
Their entire contract is paid out of the $175,000 amount?
A portion of it is paid out, it's east and northwest.
Okay, does that cover their entire fee?
No.
And where does the balance come from?
It's paid out of the Northwest. We have a consultant line item in the Northwest budget. They come out of the Northwest as well. Their billing is based on percentage of time that they spend in each district. This entire $175,000 is not just dedicated to RMA's services. It's other consultants as well, like I named. We've paid an architect out of here. We've had to pay a structural engineer. It's any services that are provided to us that aren't project specific or maintenance or legal or anything in that manner.
All right, so let me phrase it another way. Will any of the cost of their contract be encumbered or limited by what we're trying to find as a compromise here?
Let me help there. There's no question there is an existing contract with RMA, and you have obligations to pay those amounts. And I hope you will not decide that it would be better to be in breach of non-payment of those amounts, but, you know, that is certainly, but they have an existing contract.
So, okay, if I may, as I phrase the question, is there going to be enough money to cover it, or will it be encumbered by what we're proposing on this motion? It's a simple question, is it not?
Well, I'm
No,
not sure.
apparently not.
Yeah, no. I think, obviously, everything that we have in the fiscal '25, that's going to get paid out. For 2026, you have contractual obligations that you're going to have to continue, or you're going to have to vote to terminate contracts or put yourselves in breach. And I would assume in that scenario, you're going to be at a 3-3. So the contracts would continue, and the obligation to pay would continue.
All right, thank you.
Vice Mayor.
I want to clarify this. So it is ironic that the only thing that is of concern is RMA, not everything else and all the money and the millions of dollars, because RMA actually gets paid very little in the East. They get paid.
I don't
they
think
get
that's
paid-
appropriate, Commissioner. I don't care for the insult,
Commissioner
thank you.
Segerson-Eaton, please. Go ahead, Vice.
I don't think it was an insult. It's a little ironic. I know, it is the
Okay,
truth, that
okay.
the only thing you care about is RMA,
okay.
for sure the truth. But let me be clear with the numbers. RMA gets paid very little in the East CRA. It's mainly in the Northwest. If you look at our meeting, they were paid $6,000 in the last, from July and August. So they bill about 1,000 to a few thousand a month in the East. It's not a lot of money. So I don't think this is not about that, but if it is for you, it is,
Very good.
we vote.
We still have discussion. Vice? I've got Commissioner Fasick.
Yeah, I think what I've heard is still the same thing over and over again. So I think it was a brilliant idea to try to work something out, and I would support that with, if I could hear if I heard like some give and take, which I just didn't hear already. Like, I just see there's already ways to try to work around how we're going to pull money out of that account anyway. So I just, at this point, I think now we're here for 3 hours, and I don't have all day to do this. So I'd like to let's call the vote on these things, and let's figure out what we're going to move, and let's move on.
Oh, well, thank you, Commissioner Fasick. Appreciate it. Just out of curiosity, the consultants and professional services that Commissioner Segerson-Eaton was asking about, and the existing contract with RMA or anyone else that we may have an existing contract with, which extends beyond October of this year, would those contracts be paid out of this consultants and professional services account?
Some of them would.
Okay, that's full stop there. So if some of them would, and yet we zero out this $175,000 in consultants and professional services, how would we then pay those continuing obligations on continuing contracts?
I think what Commissioner Fournier contemplated is that would be the conversation that you would have in October. That you would
So in other words,
determine.
there would be no way to pay those ongoing obligations without action of this commission.
Without action of the board, exactly. And then again, I remind you, for those existing contracts, you are obligated to pay, and hopefully your decision as a board would be to continue to pay them. Otherwise, you will place the CRA in breach. So there is a consequence associated with not paying your obligations.
Gotcha. Very good. I've got Vice Mayor. Even though she asked for a vote, I've got Vice Mayor.
But what we're doing here is we're taking Armageddon risk, right? And we are reducing it down to some CRA level legal exposure if we decide not to pay a bill in November, which is a lot lower stakes, a huge compromise, and it gives us the opportunity to come back in October and decide how to spend this year's TIF and how to set policy for what we want. I don't envision I don't envision the RMA contract being the issue here. I mean, we sit down in October, and if half of us want to terminate their contract in the East or whatever it is, and half don't, we have to figure it out, right? Because you'd have to give notice. We'd want to not be in breach. You'd compromise and figure out what the budget for this year's TIF looks like. And that's actually a great opportunity for this board to try to work together, and this gets us through today. Those are what everyone's focused on RMA, and I get it. Like, half of us don't like them, half of you do, but they are not big numbers in the East. So keep that in mind.
Thank you, Vice. Appreciate it. Can you go over the FPI, the security services, that's the ones being zeroed out also?
Yes, that is correct.
What? And so it's your intention that we would have a discussion, I'm asking Vice Mayor, it's your intention that we would have a discussion about retaining them or not retaining them
In October, we have that conversation and say, hey, are they really worth it in the East? Is this enough? Is it too much? What does it look like? What are we going to allocate this year? What are we getting for that? And we have that conversation instead of right now, they're trying to do this.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay.
And then we decide, okay, you know what? FPI is not serving us how we want, so we'll give them notice, and then we will meet those obligations and budget what it takes to do that, and then move on. Or we say, hey, we want more of them, and it's going to take this much, and that's when we take that out of that project, that escrow account.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you for that. Commissioner Smith.
Vice Mayor, since the whole discussion's over this 175,000, can we just separate and minus that out from the project?
It's over 4.5 million. It's not over 175. It's over 4.5 million.
It's not consultants and professionals.
That's just one small part of it.
I went through all the slides, Commissioner,
Okay.
and I'll go back through it. You have 2 million, a little over 2 million in McNabb, so we're talking about pulling that tax increment revenue out of this project. 350,000 for redevelopment initiatives. That includes the incentive programs as well as dissemination of information. That would be coming out.
Correct.
160,000 for your redevelopment ambassadors. That would be coming out. 900,000, a little over 900,000 to allocate it to property acquisition, and then 175,000 for professional services. Those would be all the line items that we're talking about removing.
But those are not the line items that we're subtracting from the 7.8 million. We're talking about, those are the line items that are in the 4.5 project escrow.
She's talking about, yes, it's talking, deducting that amount and then putting it
Into
over
the
into an
project
escrow, coming
escrow.
back in October and basically doing a budget amendment and allocating it then to specific, based on contracts, et cetera.
And again, I just have to question, why can this not be done for the 27 budget? We've had a lot of time to modify any budgets we've wanted to modify. I just question the logic behind this. And
Mayor,
I mean, I think we're trying to
Wait,
get
wait,
through
wait,
today.
wait, 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 wait. Commissioner Smith.
just, I keep hearing RMA, and you guys have been bringing this up for a while, and I feel that they've been great for our projects, and it would be a big loss to the CRA projects without having their expertise involved with our city. And I'm just can't help but think that this is just a way that's trying to control that contract.
Mayor?
And that puts a
Wait,
red
wait.
flag up. That puts a red flag up to me. And I don't want to have that red flag when I make this vote, but I do want to move the budget along. So if we could remove that red flag and address that during the year, but not here.
That's what we're doing.
Mayor?
I've got
Okay.
Vice Mayor, then Commissioner Segerstein.
But some people are getting to
Ms.
talk all
Vasquez,
the
can you,
time.
Ms. Vasquez, can you tell me how much in the last year or 6 months RMA has been paid in the East, approximately? I mean, we're talking about $4.5 million, and I think we're fighting over 30,000 right now, or something like that, maybe less. This is not, so I understand that for some people this is all about RMA, but like there's over 2 million in the McNabb House project, right? And that's obviously the whole meeting the other day. The CRA's been promoting it online. The whole thing was about the McNabb House. I think that's a way bigger issue here than what you and Commissioner Segerson Eaton are focused on. So I don't, it's not, I mean, that's in, so if it's, I don't know, let's say it's $30,000.
For another couple hours.
You were talking about less than 1% of the money that we're going to try and allocate in this project escrow. So I think, I'm just saying you're focused on the wrong place right now, monetarily.
Very good. I've got Commissioner Segerson.
Thank you.
then
And I would just make a suggestion. I mean, because everything really seems to be about the McNabb House and Botanical Gardens. That's the little thorn here. And so what if we would just take that additional TIF money, because there's obviously, complications and various entities, seen or unforeseen, that need to be paid. Let's just say none of that new TIF can be used towards the McNabb House project. I mean, as excluding, that money is relegated to whatever else plus new projects to be determined, but not to the McNabb House.
It's a good idea, but that's not the motion, but then thank you for that.
That's not the
No,
motion,
we
but
got a
that
motion on
would
the
be
floor.
backup.
Ms. McKenna.
Before you vote on the motion, I think I understand what I'm hearing as a concern, and I think it's something you're going to have to talk about. If we park this money in project escrow, you have to allocate it to line items in October. And so if you have a 3-3, it stays parked. And we're in, and Commissioner Fournier is correct. It's a deadlock on a smaller number. You have an adopted budget. But I think that is the overriding concern. And so my question would be, how could we overcome that issue? Or can we do something similar to what Commissioner Segerson-Eaton is suggesting and target the real concern, which is the McNabb project, and take that $2 million and park it in project escrow? And rather than affecting a lot of the things that are already under contract, encumbered, that type of thing. I understand that we're trying to talk about a compromise, but I think unfortunately the compromise then has its own set of challenges. So I'm throwing that out there to you before you make the vote, because I am concerned about not achieving what all 6 of you want, and I'm just throwing it out there.
Gotcha. Very good. Further commission discussion. Vice Mayor.
I appreciate that, but we've had conversations about FPI, we've had conversations about all kinds of things, and my motion is my motion, and that is my compromise. And I feel like that's pretty good at this point.
Mayor,
Okay, Commissioner Perkins.
okay, can we call the vote?
Not quite yet. We're still discussing.
Who's this?
Mayor, if I may, if I could address the security. Vice Mayor, their contract actually terminates in November. They're at the end of the 3 years. I think what we could do is we could allocate enough funding to get them through the next couple of months. We would like to issue a request for proposal for new services, and that's a discussion that we could have in October to see if we want to go that route to go back out for services.
Perfect. It sounds like we are ripe to have this conversation to how to allocate all this money in the next year in October. Thank you.
Very good. Just a couple of things. One, I could support your almost support your motion if we did away with this consultants and professional services. That's $175,000. I don't know why you'd be worried about that. I mean, it's at a $4.5 million. I'm not sure why you would be worried about $175,000 in the vast scheme of things. With that being said, like I said, I would almost be willing to support your motion, but for me, I'd need to see that change, but then I'd also need to see it wrapped up into a yes/no on the budget. Because that's without passing the budget. I mean, I'm not going to do this unless we pass the budget.
I agree.
That's just my feelings. I've got Vice Mayor.
I am willing to combine it with the budget, but the whole amount. And it's not just that. There's social media. There's other things that I think we need to be talking about that are baked into this line item. There's a lot of things that I want a breakdown of, and I want to see how we're spending and the dissemination of information, consultants, all of that. I want that opportunity in October for this board to look at that in detail and decide, if we think we're getting the value that we want out of it, if we want to spend more, less, where we want it to go. I think it's an opportunity to look at all of this year's TIF, and that is what my intent is. I will take your half compromise on tying my motion to the budget, but it's all of this year's TIF is going into an escrow account for this board to then compromise on how to spend. That's it.
Then I need an amended motion if I'm going to support it.
And Vice Mayor, I appreciate you being willing to wrap it into the budget, but 175,000, it seems like a small ask, and I fully support your desire and commitment. You've got my commitment to absolutely discuss all those issues that you brought up in October.
I feel very, very comfortable that Armageddon is not my fault at this point.
Vice Mayor, in a spirit of compromise, that's what I've come up with. That's just me, though. I can't speak for
Just so I'm clear, Mayor, you are willing to put the city in absolute Armageddon, financial turmoil, every bit of what was described, over $175,000. Not me, you.
No, that's not the case. Actually, you are. This is your motion.
You are.
I appreciate that. Further discussion on, because so far there's been no amendment to the motion, so, but.
I'll amend the motion, like I said, if you'd like.
Let's hear it.
I will amend the motion to tie it to the approval of the East CRA budget for this year.
And get rid of the 75?
No. I told you what I'm willing to do. I'm willing to take all of this year's TIF and put it into a conversation. I'm not carving out certain contracts, certain people. I don't even know what exactly is in there. Why would I carve that out? I'm willing to take this year's TIF and talk about it in October so that we can avoid Armageddon.
Second.
Very good.
Let's just get it done.
Been moved and seconded to approve the budget with the changes that the Vice Mayor has offered.
Mayor, I have one comment.
Commissioner Smith.
Probably the same comment I said before. I'm glad you amended it to be attached to the budget. I too would like the 175,000 removed from the project escrow. And it's not saying that can't be discussed by this board at another time when we all have information and understand it. But I will support it if you remove the 175,000 from the Form 4.5, all wrapped up in the budget. And we can discuss this. We always could have discussed this at a CRA board meeting. There was always an option there. We just haven't done it. But I also would like to see, and this has nothing to do with this motion, is I think we need to have more conversations like this in public because we're not allowed to talk to each other. So let's commit to each other. There's a lot that's come out here today, more than the other night. Let's commit to having more workshops so we can talk through this and we don't end up getting to the point that we're at each other's throats. So I'm begging you to also remove the 175,000. It's on the table to discuss at another time. It always was.
Very good. Further commission discussion on the motion? Seeing none, let's go ahead and call the roll.
Commissioner Fezzik?
And just to be clear, I'm voting on the Vice Mayor's. Yes.
Commissioner Perkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Sigerson Eaton?
No.
Commissioner Smith? No. Vice Mayor Fournier?
Yes.
Mayor Harden?
No. Now, I'd like to make a motion, Ms. McKenna, including all of the previous elements of the last motion with the exception of consultants and professional services line item. And I'd like to wrap that with the approval of the ECRA budget.
Second.
Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, let's go ahead and call the roll.
Commissioner Fezzik?
No.
Commissioner Perkins?
No.
Commissioner Sigerson Eaton?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fournier?
No.
Mayor Harden?
Yes. Very good. Okay, further discussion. How about
Mayor?
the Northwest CRA? Ms. Sybil?
I'm going in again. Ms. McKenna, just you had stated something at the last meeting that because it's one agency and one trust fund, budgets are tied together.
Absolutely.
You can't effectively not vote for one and vote for another budget because we're going to end up back at the same place, no budget.
That's
right, as of
correct.
October 1st. So I just wanted to say that again for the record. I know Ms. Vasquez wanted to say something relative to the East budget versus the Northwest budget. So
Oh, okay.
let's hear her
Ms.
out.
Vasquez?
Because I'm anticipating this will probably happen as well in the Northwest, that putting all the funding down into a reserve account and bringing it back in October, as long as we bring it back in the October meeting and then do that allocation fund to line specifics in the budget, is something that we as staff can put forward and do for the East, yes. So I know you guys just voted.
Yeah, we just voted. Commissioner Smith?
Okay. Doesn't mean we can't vote again. My concern is the 3-3. There's a real good chance, I'm not saying that I'm a yes or a no, but there's a real good chance it would be 3-3. And then we're going to be at a point in October where we don't have this 4.5 allocated to anything. I would like to make a motion that everything that you had in your motion, but if there's a 3-3 vote in October, that we go with what the CRA budget has presented to us here.
Is that, Ms. McKenna, is that a conditional approval?
We would add it to the bond, or to the budget resolution that says that if there is not an agreement on the 4.5 in October, it would return to the line items that had been presented.
I second that.
And then we could have a workshop to discuss it before we go to a vote and talk about the budget before we come up to vote, so we totally all understand every aspect of it. Thank you for the second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to do that. Vice Mayor?
So that effectively makes this meaningless because there's no incentive for anyone to come back and negotiate in October. Because if it's 3-3 and we don't negotiate, what's your incentive to give anything in October when we want to allocate money when if it's 3-3, you just get this? I mean, I understand that you're trying to move forward the budget at that point, but it's really meaningless and basically means that there's no incentive to negotiate with each other to come up with an agreed upon plan because because this is the default. And
what it means is it gives us as a group an opportunity for each of us to present our arguments together. I've learned a lot.
Okay, please, folks in the audience, if you could please stop with the chatter. If you want to have a conversation, please take it out in the lobby. It makes it difficult to hear up here. Thank you. I'm sorry, go ahead, Commissioner.
So it gives us an opportunity. I've learned a lot of your opinions, and there's some good discussion going on here. It gives us an opportunity for you to make your argument as to why you want to change things around. Instead of just making the statement, let's make the argument and discuss it, and it'll give us an opportunity to do that in a workshop so we can get this out in the air before we come to the dais and make a vote on the October CRA budget. That's the objective.
Got you. Very good. Got Commissioner Fessick?
I said, let's go.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I said, let's just go. Like,
gotcha.
This is kind of like getting to the point where we're saying the same thing over and over again, and we're not getting anywhere.
what the outcome, yeah.
So
Ms. McKenna, you got something to add?
I'm gonna jump in, and it's kind of outside my role, but I want to jump in anyway because I've been, trying to move us along. Here's what I'd like you all to consider. The 2 million line item, the new revenue for McNabb, is non-controversial. You will all agree that can be parked. And what I would ask you to consider is taking that non-controversial number, because obviously the other numbers have, it's 2 million. Yeah, it's 2 million. Park the 2 million in your project escrow and determine how that will be spent. That way you have no controversy as it relates to that 2 million. And that will get you certainly to a place where you can have conversations in October about the other issues that are in front of you. But it at least allows you to unanimously approve a budget.
Ms. Commissioner Smith, it's your motion on the floor. Yeah, there was a second, but Ms. McKenna's
You're
suggestion,
recommending amending my motion to just
2 million for the McNabb Park.
Park
2
the new
million.
revenue for McNabb. I think
That's-
it's 2 million and change.
Wait,
Okay, I can always come back to this if we fail on that. All right, then I make a motion that we approve the East CRA budget with the parking of the 2 million-ish that's allocated in the revenue for the McNabb House Botanical Gardens.
been moved and seconded to approve the budget with 2 million parked, 2 million-ish parked for McNabb Beautiful.
Okay, just to be clear,
Discussion.
we're going backwards here now. You said we had approval with just net of the 175, and now we've gone backwards another
Well, but that
million here.
didn't work, so.
No, I know it didn't, but we went 2 million the other way with less things to discuss. So the motion is going the wrong way relative to compromise. Well, it is, because we were only 175 apart before, and now we're 2 million.
You're the one who's speaking, that's fine.
So, there are things I want to talk about too, like I brought up the other day, like the parking lot that I want, other things. I want to talk about the East CRA TIF funding for the year. And it's all or nothing for me. And before it was all except 175, now it's now it's only 2 million, not the other 2.5 million gets spent. So this motion is going completely the wrong way for me.
For you, apparently. We get it, but we're trying to reach some kind of consensus so we can pass a budget. Further discussion on the motion. As you know, it's a compromise. Nobody's getting everything they want. So it would allow us to at least move forward with the budget and do our jobs. Okay, nothing further? Let's go ahead and call the roll on motion.
Commissioner Fezzik?
No.
Commissioner Perkins?
No.
Commissioner Sigerson-Eaton?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Commissioner Vice Mayor Fournier?
No.
Mayor Harden?
Yes. Okay. So we're back to square one.
Can we take a break, Mayor?
Can we just call the vote at this point?
Now let's take a break.
Let's call the vote. I mean,
Call the vote on what?
everything, 3 and 4. We've been sitting here for hours.
No, I think we
do
should
it.
take a break.
I'd like to, make a motion to call the vote on items 3 and 4. Because
Second.
Okay, well, we got to do one at a time. We just did 3.
So 3 failed. So let's.
Let's vote on one then. Come on, let's move this.
Okay, so we can't come to a resolution on the east. So do you want to talk about the northwest?
Need a break.
Well, I would like to call the vote. We had a motion and a second.
A motion and second to just
Call the
approve
vote on
the
item
vote.
4.
Call the vote.
On item 4.
Yep.
Call the vote.
Item 4.
with no changes.
Changes.
Nope, no changes. Call the vote.
Okay. On item 4, that's the northwest CRA budget. Okay. Okay, let's go ahead and it's the original motion then that was on the agenda. Very good.
Without
With no
Commissioner
changes.
Perkins'
No.
condition?
No
We're
changes.
gonna, my changes will be entered into the developer's contract.
At a separate time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Any discussion on a motion? No. Let's go ahead and call a roll in the northwest.
Commissioner Fezzik?
No.
Commissioner Perkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Sigerson-Eaton?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fournier?
No.
Mayor Harden?
Yes. The northwest passes, but the east does not.
So we
take a
need
recess?
to, if you're going to take a break, no, we have to stay until we pass the east. You have to pass the east. You don't have a
Let's
choice.
take a 10-minute break. 10-minute break. Okay, well, let's go ahead and
Okay.
bring this meeting back to order. Okay, Commissioner Perkins, do you want to say something?
Yeah, yes, I do. I have a question for you, Tran. Can you answer this for me quickly? So I've received 3 calls regarding the CRA advisory that meets at the EPAT Larkin Center. And I was told that you said in one of the advisory meetings that for the new downtown, that you all are only looking for elite developers and contractors. I don't know why 3 people would call and tell me the same thing. And I'd like to know if it's true or false and your comments.
So, no, that was taken out of context. So, the Grisham assemblage is part of the downtown. That was where the discussion started. That was involving the purchase of the Westview Cemetery office that is part of that assemblage. What I stated there was this can be pulled out of the core for local development, smaller contractors, because a lot of the stuff in the core is all controlled by ROCA. So, of course, they're probably going to look at, what do I say? Probably some assemblage we can have smaller local development companies partake in. That's the only.
But you did not say that the new downtown is looking for elite developers and contractors.
No. My whole thing all along was, can we have an opportunity for a local smaller firm to take part of this? And the Grisham assemblage was one of those that could happen.
Okay, all right. And what I like to do as well is I like to encourage some of the commissioners and staff, if they could, to just stop into some of those Northwest CRA advisory meetings. It's a lot of shenanigans going on there. It's almost difficult to bear. I do know we have a chair. I did speak with the chair, and obviously that's not help. Oh, good. Obviously that's not helping. But I'm just glad to hear you didn't say anything like that. Okay, thank you. That's it, Mayor.
Very good. Vice Mayor.
Just a point of respect, I did mention that I saw her leave with BSO, and there seemed to be
Oh,
a
I saw
rush.
her
I just,
colleague.
if Commissioner
Sorry, your
Segerson
colleague.
Eaton is late, we do everything possible to wait for her to finish what she's doing or to call her, and I just found it disrespectful to start a meeting when I said that someone was with law enforcement.
No, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. I didn't realize you meant she left with law. I thought you
I
meant
saw her leave the chambers. No, I saw her leave the chambers
she
with
was
law enfortement.
talking
No,
with law
I
enforcement.
saw her leave the chambers, I said, with law enforcement.
I'm sorry, I
Her
did
car
not.
was gone.
Sorry.
I don't keep track of cars.
Sorry, I don't know what's
her
happening.
dad was here too, and he's gone. I have no idea who does what, but I said I saw
She's
her leave
here.
with
She's
law
here.
enforcement, and we didn't bother to.
She's here.
She's
I certainly
here.
meant
Yeah,
no-
yeah,
understand, but I
and
just think, again, here's another double standard, because if Commissioner Segerson Eaton is late, we all have to sit here and wait for her to finish her cigarette, but,
That's true.
or for her to get here to start the meetings, but no one else gets the same respect.
I appreciate that, Vice Mayor. Thank you so much for pointing that out, but I disagree. There's a double standard. I thought Commissioner Fessick had left. I did not realize she left with law enforcement. I did not know
that
that.
means.
I thought she left. We had a break. Granted, people were late getting back from break. It happens. I get it. But very few people leave the premises, leave the parking lot. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Good start. All right, we're here on the east, only the east.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the East CRA budget as written, with
Second.
the $2 million set aside.
With the $2 million set aside?
We just did
Yes,
that.
that's it.
So approve it with the $2 million set aside. Sure, I'll second that. That's
Just
Vice Mayor?
question, are we allowed to make the same motions over and over in the same exact motion?
Ms. McKenna said we
Ms.
can't
McKenna?
leave.
Well,
I mean,
No,
it's,
but the same exact
We've
motion?
adopted the Northwest budget now, so
okay.
we're going to go through a process to try and get the East adopted as well.
Got it, thank you.
That's a start.
okay. So it's been moved and seconded. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, let's go ahead and call the roll.
Commissioner Fezzik,
No.
Commissioner Perkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Segerson, Eaton,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fournier,
No.
Mayor Harden.
Yes. Very good.
All right.
All right. All right, we're done.
We're done.
Done.